Welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And we're here today doing one of my favorite things, cloud architect interview demonstrations. And if you're looking to master your tech career interview, or you're trying to get your first cloud architect job, or solution architect job, or enterprise architect job, or cloud engineer job, network engineer job, you've got to go through the interview. I'll tell you, Go Cloud Careers, we've been studying interview tactics now for over 25 years. We've spoken to thousands of hiring managers and thousands of recruiters, and we've done thousands upon thousands of interviews in our lives. And we've been helping people get hired for 2 decades now. Now, I studied interviews so much earlier in my career, and the reason I studied interviews so much earlier in my career is I was practicing internal medicine. And I woke up one day and said, I want to be a network engineer. And the world laughed at me and said, hey, Mike, you're crazy. And I said, I may be crazy, but I'm going to be a network engineer. You see it. And then they said, Mike, you are so nuts. Medical people don't become network engineers. And I said, guess what? By 6 months, I will not only be an engineer, I'll be a senior engineer and hopefully the lead. 6 months later, I was the lead network architect at the world's largest internet service provider. And all that started with mastering the interview. So I've studied interview tactics for 25 years. I've never interviewed for a job where I wasn't hired. And that's why we created our interview training. We created interview training. We worked with our favorite tech recruiting firm, IT Excel in New York City. So we've got lots and lots on the experience side. I want all of you to get your first cloud architect job and pass that cloud architect interview. And that's why we do these cloud architect interview demonstrations, solution architect interview demonstrations, so you know what it's going to feel like. Everybody has it in their mind that these jobs are all techie, but there's so much more that goes into these interviews. So when we're dealing with cloud architects or solution architects on the interview, we have to show the following things. We have to show that you understand architecture, which is system design. We have to show that you have what's called gravitas, or the ability to lead and walk into the room and have everybody know you're in charge. You're going to have the ability to sell or sell yourself. We're going to gauge that. We're going to want to see how you explain technology as part of the interview. And you know why? As architects, we're going to be explaining technology to executives who have no idea what the technology actually is. So that's something critical that we're going to do. And on all these interviews, when it comes down to it, chances are we're going to have to give a presentation. But I want you all to have the best interview. I want you to get some experience. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do interview training and interview practice and cloud architect interview demonstrations. I'll ask some interview questions. I will provide feedback. People that are being coached, here's what I want you to do. I want to read my body language. Meaning if I do this, chances are I'm interested. If I do this, chances are I'm not. If I pick up my cell phone and start texting, it's because I'm bored. And let me tell you, guess what? You will see this in real interviews, and that's why we do. So we want to see the gravitas or the executive presence. We want to see your emotional intelligence come out. We want to see your master communication skills come out. We want to see your problem resolutions come out, your sales skills, and that's what we're looking to see. And that's what you've got to convince the hiring manager on this. It's not enough just to be tech savvy. We have to do it all. So with that in mind, we're going to start. And I've got 3 great people. It looks like, Norbert, you're actually sitting in a classroom.
Yeah, I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher. I love that. Well, we're going to start with you, Norbert. I love that. I saw this background and it looked like the green above you. It looked like you were in a classroom. And I was so excited to see that because I love when people who have communications and education backgrounds decide to do tech. Here's why. They do real well because they're used to taking complex things and explaining things simply. And what an advantage it is for an architect. My first job was practiced internal medicine. So we'll go Norbert, then we'll go to Ivo, and then we'll go to Fitz, and we're going to have some great interview experience and training. Norbert, we're going to begin with you because I know your internet's a little spotty, and right now you're working right now, so we'll begin with you. So first question of all interviews. Well, actually, before we do this, Norbert, what gold job do you actually have?
Okay, I'm a national board certified math teacher, and I work for Prince George County Public School.
Okay.
And I also teach calculus at Prince George Community College.
Oh my God.
I've been doing this 20 years. I'm trying to switch the job.
What job do you want to switch to, Norbert?
Yeah, I want to do computer architect.
Okay, computer architect. So we're going to go down that path. So I'm going to ask you some questions. Now, I love your background.
Okay.
In fact, your background will actually be great if you convince the hiring manager that it's applicable for architecture, and it's very applicable. We'll see if you know how to do it, and if you don't, I will show you how to do it. So we're going to ask you some architecture questions. Have you been studying architecture for a while, so I know how deep or not deep to go?
No, not too deep, like for like a month.
Okay, well, we got it. So we're going to start with the more behavioral things, and then we'll ask you one or two basic things. So we'll start with the behavioral. Tell me about yourself.
Okay. So I say I'm Norbert Guanet. I graduated I'm from Cameroon. I graduated at University of Chang in Cameroon with a bachelor in mathematics. Then I came to US in 2010. I started as an electrical engineer. I did that for 3 years. And 1 year I did satellite TV. I was a satellite TV technician. Then I went to Bowie State University and I got my certification in education. I went to Notre Dame University where I got a master in leadership in education. And I went to Western Governor University where I got another master in mathematics education. And I'm currently finishing a PhD in science education. But I'm going to forget about all that. I want to switch to computer architect. I want to retire from education. I'm a very hard work person. I work very hard as a side job, and this is going to surprise you. I'm doing home improvement as a side job. I have a home improvement company. I want to leave all that and prepare for my retirement.
Really like that. So it seems to me you're pretty motivated. You come from Cameroon. It's not easy to get here from Cameroon. I know a lot about Cameroon. I have 50 volunteers actually that volunteer teaching in Cameroon right now as part of the Cloud Heroes Africa project. And I've got 175 plus Cameroonian students right now, which is really, really exciting. So I love that. I loved how you showed me the history. So, okay, you said computer architecture. Is there a particular thing that you're interested into? Is it networking? Is it tech systems? Is it cloud?
Yeah, cloud is interested. I'm interested in cloud. I'm currently trying to work on AWS cloud.
Okay, so tell me, what is the AWS cloud? If to describe it for me in the simplest terms.
Okay, so far what I learned on AWS, I learned how to create a virtual machine. Okay, I learned about some stuff about the security. I learned how to. I learned about instance. I also learned about what? Availability zones.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What is an instance?
Okay, an instance is like an machine image that you can use to create a virtual machine.
Okay, so what is a virtual machine?
Yeah, it's like a computer in the cloud.
How does it work?
Okay, you use a machine image to create a computer in the cloud. You can access that using a graphic interface or using a command line. Okay, you can use it to do pretty much everything that you do on a regular machine.
Okay, so could you explain the architecture of the virtual machine, how you go from a server to a virtual machine?
How you go from a server. So to go to the first server to the virtual machine. Okay, the virtual machine can be a server, right?
So a virtual machine is a And I'll tell you exactly what a virtual machine is. We'll go through these tech things. But you had said a virtual machine, and you had said an image. So do virtual machines only exist in the cloud, or do they exist in the data center as well?
The virtual machine exists on the cloud.
Okay. So
Yeah.
have we had virtual machines? So we haven't had virtual machines for the last 20 or 30 years then? Before the cloud?
It is located in the data center.
Okay. Okay, so there's a virtual machine that sits in a data center. Okay, good. So is the virtual machine pure on the cloud, or is the virtual machine in any data center everywhere in the world?
So you can create your virtual machine wherever you want, in any availability zone.
Okay, what about non-availability zones? Totally off of the cloud.
Yeah, but it has to be somewhere.
Where would it normally be if it's not in the cloud?
Yeah, I can create a virtual machine on my own machine. I have one on my own computer.
Okay, good. So that's a special kind of virtualization.
Yeah.
So with server virtualization, actually, so tell me, what is this magical device I'm taking? So I've got a physical server, and I install this thin layer of software. This thin layer of software manages the memory, manages the CPU cores, manages the resources, disk resources, and network resources. From there, I can take this physical server and create as many virtual machines as I want.
Yeah.
Meaning I can say this one gets 4 cores and 32 gigs of RAM and a 100 gig hard drive. This one gets 2 cores, 4 gigs of RAM. What is that software that enables me to do that?
Okay. I may not have the technical word. The one I'm using here is, what do you call it? Oh, I forgot the name. Can you give me like multiple choice? I pick one. I'm not very technical.
Okay, so we're gonna respond to this in a minute, and we'll go through it. So, what does every virtual machine have to have in it? Like, does it need its own operating system?
Yeah, it is an operating system that you install. You can install it on the operating system, or you can install it. You are going to install it on another operating system.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's go walk through. So let me ask you 2 more questions. Why should I hire you?
Now, I'm not here. Maybe I'm in the wrong. I'm not here to apply for a job.
Well, pretend it's an interview. Why should I hire you?
Yeah. No, you are going to hire me because of the skill that I have, of the experience that I'm bringing at your company.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. And because of my ability to learn very fast.
Keep going.
And my background as a mathematician, I can apply it to computer very easily.
Okay. So good, let's walk through this. We'll start from the beginning. We'll go over the tech, the non-tech.
Okay.
The first thing tell me about yourself. Well, there is so much interesting and impressive about you, Norbert, that that was your chance. So you did a very good job, but let me teach you how to do it a little better. If you had gone in there and said, I'm Norbert, and I'm Norbert, and I am a highly energetic, highly motivated professional who loves technology. I came to this country from Cameroon, and I've done multiple master's degrees, and I've almost completed a PhD. I've worked as an electrical engineer. I've been teaching advanced mathematics, and of course, I know cloud architecture. And I love it. I love how technology can improve the way businesses perform, and I'm excited about the cloud. Something a little stronger, like a sledgehammer. Here's what you want to get out there. You want to get your energy, your enthusiasm, and your passion out there. You also want to show your motivation. And let me tell you, coming from the Cameroon to the US is like winning an Olympic gold medal. And most of us that have seen people that have done that know what's in that person. They're going to be successful because they have the inner will to fight in them. So show that inner will to fight. Add a little more energy, a little more enthusiasm, and a little more oomph. And I'm going to see it. What you said was good, but we've got to get it to about half the time. See, the average executive has an attention span of 0.1%. Terrible. So what we should do, we want to talk about that energy, the enthusiasm, passion. We want to talk about those advanced degrees that you have because it looks great. It shows motivation. We want to talk about teaching. Why do we want to talk about teaching? It shows you know how to communicate things that are complicated easily. And we want to show oomph and passion. Now, when I asked you what the cloud was, what I was hoping you would know, and mind you, if you just did the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional and had no cloud architect training, you wouldn't know either. But the cloud is really nothing more than a 50-year-old data center and network that's just been virtualized. So, Norbert, if I take you to a data center 30 years ago, you know what you're going to see in there? Routers, switches, firewalls, servers, storage, load balancers, and VPN concentrators. And if you walk into Amazon's data center right now, do you know what you're going to see? Routers, switches, load balancers, storage, firewalls. It's identical. So, Norbert, what's different about today's cloud versus yesterday's data center? Nothing. Here's the main difference. The cloud is us renting a part of somebody else's data center. Kind of like going to a hotel versus owning your house. The data center is your house. The hotel is like you need to go on vacation. You need one room? Great. You're bringing 10 students with you? You got 10 rooms. You bring 100 students, so you're renting what you need on the cloud. Now, what happens if we take a regular data center and we install cloud software on there? It becomes a cloud. And that basically manages where virtual machines go on the data center. It determines what storage is attached to what virtual machine, and it happens behind the scenes. So a cloud is just a network in a data center. So virtual machines are 50 years old. IBM invented the virtual machine about 50 years ago to timeshare their mainframes. VMware invented the modern virtual machine about 25 years ago. And what happened is they created something called a hypervisor.
Yeah, that's the word.
You have a server. Mm-hmm. You install this hypervisor. Now, there's two kinds of virtual machines. We'll cover type 1 and type 2. The hypervisor divides the server up. And then we select CPU cores. We select DRAM. We select storage. Then in a normal world, we install the operating system just like we would on any other computer. We install our applications and their dependencies. And now it's a virtual machine. Now what we can do is we can take that virtual machine and we can make a single file out of it. And out of that single file, I could take that and I could send that file to Google, AWS, Azure, Oracle, Dell, Palo Alto, Cisco, Alibaba, and I could just launch that virtual machine there. That's what a machine image is. It's just it's the virtual hard disk for a virtual machine. So the AMI is just an image. It's a backup. There
should be no student in the building.
Chris, we can do with that in the background. Versus the virtual machine, which is actually the actual server. So you can make multiple virtual servers out of a single physical server. They're called virtual machines. Now, you also mentioned on your computer, you also have a virtual machine. That's slightly different technology. And here's the way that works. On your computer, you've got your operating system, which has got all your happy applications. And then you would install VirtualBox or VMware Workstation or Parallels on Mac. That's called the Type 2 hypervisor. And the reason that's not used for server virtualization is you first have to install your operating system. And then you install this hypervisor, and then you create your virtual machines. And that's why they don't perform that well, because they're inside of an operating system. Where server virtualization is like a server sitting somewhere else. So good. So when it comes to this, what you really need to communicate to me, which I didn't get across, you can't say, I've got this business on the side doing home improvement. I've got a real estate business. Look, I have a real estate business too, but I can't tell people about it. So when I talk about the things that are applicable. So your communication of complex things, hugely beneficial. Your math skills would be highly useful in the following careers. Capacity planning, which is a big part of architecture. Your math skills are going to be amazing. But there's a lot of big data applications. So we have data people that actually create algorithms to mine through data. And they're typically looking for PhD statisticians and mathematicians. And something tells me you've got some really strong math background. And if you can convey that math background and the leadership background, you're there. So what do you do as a teacher? Hopefully you're bringing out the best in others. You're dealing with kids who may have problems. Maybe the family problem. Maybe they have learning disabilities. Maybe they have who knows what kind of problem. Maybe they can't even afford breakfast, and you have to go figure that out as a teacher. You're solving those problems every day, which means you have to develop a degree of emotional intelligence. a degree of leadership skills just to do the job. So if you're truly bringing out the best in others, you're architecting the young people's lives. So if you can communicate, I've been architecting people's lives and careers for the last 2 to 3 decades, 4 decades. Now architecting my technology is pretty darn simple. It's the same thing. So I want you to really think about this, Norbert. If you were an academic advisor and I were to say, hey, I want to become a school teacher and teach math. I'm not good at math. I respect people that are good at math. My wife's a math genius. I'm a verbal person. But I always wanted to be a math guy, but it's just not me. But if I asked you and you advised me and you said, hey, Mike, tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, Mike? And then you built me a plan, that would be architecture. So you're already doing it. So try to show your capability being an architect because you're already architecting other people's careers as opposed to architecting technologies. That's going to be the secret when you transition careers.
Okay.
That and being a little more crisp and being more executive. But great start. Obviously, on a real interview, you wear a blue or black suit with a white or blue shirt, a tie, polished shoes, polished belt. You won't have any gum, but we're having fun here. So, there's all those kind of things. You look the person straight in the eye, but Norbert, you're very likable. That is a huge asset for you. And I mentioned, trying to get here from Cameroon, that is not easy.
Yeah.
So that shows tenacity. It shows grit. It shows mental toughness. We employers love that. We love motivated people that won't quit until they win. So show that. Now, all that experience you have, all those hardships you went through, now you're there. So my family's from Greece. I know what it's like. It wasn't easy for them to get here. It's harder from Cameroon than Greece, but you know what? Never easy getting here. So you did it. So congratulations. So show the world how awesome you are. And trust me, they're going to love you. They'll love you. Fill in those gaps and you're going to be in great shape.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
What
you.
I'd like you to do is watch and see what others do. So here's the thing. There was this really great book on strategy. It's about 5,000 years old. It's called The Art of War. And what do they say? Know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll never fear you'll always be victorious. Never fear the results of 1,000 battles. So guess what? Here's your chance to do some recon and gather some intel. Learn yourself, strengths and weaknesses, learn others. Find out how to be better than everybody else, and get yourself cloud hired. Norbert, I'm so honored you were here today. It's a real privilege. Hope to see more of you around here.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Norbert. So let's hear it for Norbert in the chat box. It's not easy being the first one.
Not easy being the first one. Just heard about the cloud a month ago and volunteered to be here. So let's give him a round of applause. I know I definitely appreciate it.
All right. So I'm gonna remove you, Norbert, and you can go and join us on YouTube on the live stream and watch from YouTube. So thank you.
Chris,
Okay, what's the link for the YouTube? Can I have the link for the YouTube?
Yeah, I'll put it in the private chat here right before you leave. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next one is going to be Ivo. And Ivo recently enrolled in the program just a few weeks ago, I believe. And I think audio
it's more like 3 days ago, actually.
Yeah.
But we'll ask.
And I'm sorry if my audio is bad. I'll have it fixed before I come back. So.
Hi, Ivo. We'll have you unmute, Ivo.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, Ivo. And Chris said you're one of my students. I think I saw you signed up in the last 3 or 4 days, right?
Yes, I did. That's correct.
So you really haven't had a chance to go through too many classes yet.
Well, I have had the chance to just go through some of the seminars and go through some of the classes, though.
Okay. But you made it to some of our seminars. Wonderful. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so happy to have you in the program. And tomorrow might be your first or second actual live class. So we're thrilled to have you there. So,
thank you for having me.
So, and obviously you want to be a cloud architect in that program. And what's your actual background right now?
So right now I work as a system administrator for a private healthcare company.
Okay, excellent. So Linux, Unix, both?
Windows. It's kind of a Windows shop. and we have a little few Linux boxes, but it's Windows. It's a Windows shop.
Okay. So I'm going to start this out with the usual behavioral question that starts out 90% of interviews. Tell me about yourself.
All right. Thank you for having me today and for interviewing with me today. First, my name is Ivo. I reside in Maryland. I have been in the IT space for 6 years now. And even though my actual first job was not IT, I actually started as a security guard where I kind of protected property, physical security, and just making sure that there was surveillance and not missing property. So I started there, but because I was kind of much more IT inclined and I always wanted, I'm kind of tech savvy, much more tech oriented. So I got into IT, started as a support specialist. The first half of my career was focused on understanding users, understanding their needs, why it was so critical to meet those needs. And later on, the later half of my career has been more focused on the technology side, where I have worked much more on configuration, maintenance, monitoring systems, and leveraging the same systems to provide needs that are tailored to the customer. So this little journey in my career so far has helped me to understand how to bridge the gap between people and technology. And I could not be so grateful to um, look for better ways to help the user. So joining Go Cloud for me, I decided to look for how can we get more better ways to help users, help organizations and businesses. So I was like, if I can just get myself much more information, much more training, get what is relevant to provide the best assistance to users, it will be so great. So I decided to enroll in a training program called Go Cloud, where I can leverage cloud technology and provide very, very accurate and cost effective solutions to users. So that's where I'm at my career right now.
I love that. So it sounds like you've done a lot of professional development. It sounds like you've got a good background with people as well as technology. But you know what? You're applying for an architect role. So I'm a little more concerned about your knowledge of people than your actual knowledge of technology. So
Sure.
when you told me about yourself, you said you did something where you did a lot of requirements gathering and asking people what they needed in order to craft a solution for them.
Right.
What's involved in figuring out what they need?
Repeat that again. I didn't get that.
What's
Sorry.
involved in finding out what people actually need?
What's involved in finding out what people need? First, you have to communicate. Communication is one, and these are some of the key skills I actually got along the way. Communication, so reaching out to people over the phone, emails, instant messaging, communicating to them, asking questions, and also listening. That's one thing I learned, very invaluable. Listening, not just like assuming that they may need something, but listening carefully, repeating what they say just to make sure I got them right and make sure that myself, I I I I am not assuming what they don't mean. So listening to them, taking down note of what their needs were, understanding how critical it was to doing the job. So understanding that this need, if I have to keep it pending, it may affect maybe an entire branch of an organization. So understanding the level of impact and understanding how to mobilize resources or what to do with my team and other people that I could leverage to make sure that we could provide timely solutions.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I really, really, really like that. Could you describe a virtual machine to me? What it is, how it works,
So,
and why we'd use it?
so a virtual machine for the most part, it's I would say it's a machine. I would say it's So a virtual machine, it's a system that is running on for what I've used it so far, because I have spun up virtual machines on a VMware EXI. So it's like a replicated piece of a physical machine over a software or maybe a cloud. So it is. I've used this especially in terms of maybe testing out applications or softwares, so I can spin up a virtual machine on probably Hyper-V or VMware XI. So just so I can maybe have that flexibility and that convenience to be able to do projects anywhere, anytime, and then maybe if I don't want it, I could get it out of. I could surely delete or decommission the virtual machine from my system.
Okay, good. So would you say a virtual machine is a logical computer inside of a physical computer?
Right, that's right, sir.
Okay, good. So why would we use that? What's the advantage of using that versus not using it?
So the advantage first of the physical computer is going to occupy space. It's going to occupy you a lot of space. Say you need maybe something, you need a physical computer, that space. So you're going to save on space if first you're using a virtual machine because you're just gonna spin up one right now, and two, you save up on time. It takes no time it takes little time to spin up a virtual machine than ordering a new physical system from a vendor. Also, you're going to save on maybe efficiency in terms of you can allocate a certain number of space memory or CPU cores to a virtual machine, but a physical machine that comes by default, you would have to order for your RAM, try to jack it up, try to order for. So you're winning until you're losing on time when you're operating a lot on physical machines. But virtual machines gives you that flexibility, saves you time, saves you to a greater extent money, and also you can do a lot. Maybe like you want to test something, you don't need to buy a physical machine. You can just pin up a virtual machine, test up an application and software, and so it's cost effective. It saves you time, saves you space.
Great. Give me one more technical question. You said you come from a Windows world.
Yes, sir.
Explain Active Directory to me. What it is, why organizations use it, how it works.
So if I have to explain Active Directory, I will try to explain it to the best of my ability for someone who maybe is not tech savvy. I would say
Perfect.
Active Directory is just like you having like back in the days. I'm not that old. I'm still young, but I remember my dad. He used to have this directory. He used to have this directory where he is going to keep the names of different people that he knows. He's going to keep their names in that directory. He logs in their names, logs in their phone number, their address, their other relevant information that were peculiar to these people. So that knowledge, that basic knowledge that he's trying to track everything, not just track, but keep record of people, information, data, resources that will keeps him in connection and communication with people he loves. So it's the same thing in the IT world. Active Directory does just pretty much the same thing for companies. It is a directory that has resources, that has information about the people in that company, the systems they use, the groups in that company, and how they are being managed, the permissions they are being given, the policies that apply to grant them access to something and one thing or the other.
Okay, so you said it creates a table of users, if I understand you correctly. It's used to determine who the user is, what they can do, and then track what they did on the systems via their permissions. It's used to create all the identification of who everyone is. Is that correct?
Yeah, it has a record of all of that, including the employees and the systems in that company.
So that's typically used for one function. There's two names for this function. There's one called AAA, which means authentication, authorization, and accounting.
Right.
And there's another terminology that's widely popular today, which I think is crazy complicated for that. What does this all fall under? What category of insecurity?
Repeat the last thing you just said. I'm sorry, I didn't.
So what is it called when you determine who the user is, what they can do, and then you track? So there's two terminologies. The old one was authentication, authorization, accounting. And if you have to go find it on the AWS cloud or the Azure cloud, they new call it something today. What do they call that? That identification of who users are, what they can do, and then tracking what they did. What do they call that functionality?
Multi-factor authentication? No,
They call it identity and access management.
Okay. Identity,
Which
yes.
Totally fine. If you didn't know that, the only reason I was going there, I still use authentication, authorization, accounting, and here's why I don't use IAM. No customer knows what it is, but
Yeah.
in case when you deal with the techies that are spouting off all these acronyms, I need to know you know the acronyms so you can translate them to regular people. So last thing, Iva, why should I hire you?
So you should hire me because based on or what I have learned from your company based on the kind of requirements your company is looking for someone who is able to bring up skills that can help them meet up market needs or meet up with their customers. So, my background already, like I mentioned of earlier, I'm able to bring up skills, both soft and hard skills on the table, skills that can enable me reach out to users or reach out to customers, be able to understand their needs, like what they need, being able to empathize with them, be able to go the extra mile, being pushful, being able to go the extra mile to make sure that the customer is satisfied, and providing solutions that I understand based on what I've shared with the customer can best meet their needs and help them be competitive in the market.
Good. Okay, let's walk through this, Ivo.
Yes, sir.
All in all, wow, really good. You've
Thank
not
you, sir.
done any sales in your background?
No, I have not really, but it's because I've had a lot of interviews in the past. I like Norbert. I'm from Cameroon, and
I think I
coming
heard it in your accent. That's what I was
yeah,
thinking.
yeah. So coming here and having to do lots of interviews. Every interview just got to add something, a learning path in my career. So I was picking one thing or the other.
So here's what I think. All in all, very solid. You told me about yourself that was really good, and you hit the listening to people and solutioning to people. I loved that because that showed me, architecture. And as soon as you did, I keyed in on that and I started asking you, tell me about this design thing. What I wanted to hear was listen more than you speak, ask questions, communication skills, emotional intelligence, and woohoo, I did.
Right.
And I went, wow, I truly like that. That's good.
Thank you, sir.
I went into some of the tech things. You were a little shaky, but still pretty good. But you're getting there. And you've only been with me for what, 3, 4 days, 5 days
Yes,
now?
just 3 days. 3 days.
Okay, for 3 days. Well, let me tell you, you were 60% of what I needed. So
Thank you, sir.
in the end, we'll be there.
Thank you.
Now, every answer was crisp, articulate, but the last thing to kind of think about is that hiring managers, they're kind of like executives in most cases, and they have zero attention span. And what I mean by this is, if I actually tallied up, I get upwards of 6,000 to 8,000 messages per day. I'm actually not joking, and that's pretty normal for an executive. So my phone's ringing. I'm getting 10 emails while we're speaking. I'm getting 13 Slack messages, 5 LinkedIn messages, 3 WhatsApp messages. And I'm not joking. Just in the last couple of seconds, I just keep ignoring them. That's just what I do when I teach. But there's that, and then I call them back afterwards. But there's that. So we're that busy. So get your point out fast, 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 fast. So when I said, why should I hire? You should hire me because I'm a highly energetic, highly motivated individual that absolutely loves technology. I've got a background in asking people their background and designing creative solutions for them. And I can help make your customers more successful, and I can help you make it more successful as well. You told me all of that, but I think it'd just be a little crisper.
Okay.
And get it a little faster, because what you told me was extremely good.
Okay.
I mean, it was really, really good. I really liked it. I'm
Thank you,
so
sir.
excited that you're in my program because,
Thank you, sir.
3 months from now, you're going to be working at one of these cloud companies, and you're going to be having a really great time. I see it in you already, so I'm super excited to be working with you. Great start. Great start.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate
Just
it.
try and crispen it up just a little bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Like, you've only been with me for 3 days, so find out in 3 months, I can't even imagine. I know
Thank you,
Chris is
sir.
back there excited as well. You did really good. Really, really, really good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
See, that's my phone ringing, even though and my phone is actually in Do Not Disturb mode, and it's still ringing somehow.
So hopefully my microphone is better now.
Yeah, it is.
Yay. All right. So good job on that, Ivo. Lots of comments in the chat box from everybody.
Thank you.
Yep. I don't have anything to add to it. Normally I'm full of comments, but today I'm just kind of shy. So,
Ivo, I before you go, I received the ultimate honor. I was presenting to a group of Cameroonians, and they had some people actually give me a name. They called me Nugafor, and I'm putting that as my middle name on all my things in LinkedIn from now on. I was so honored and appreciative.
That would be great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can't wait to see how far you come.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So Ivo, I'm gonna remove you, and you can follow that
Okay.
link in the chat
Please,
that,
please keep watching. Please.
Okay, I
so
will.
you can watch on YouTube.
I
Thank you.
will. Thank you. Bye.
All right. That one was like a breath of fresh air.
That was really great. When I see those, it makes me so excited.
Yeah, 3 days, 4 days. All right.
Wow, in 3 months. Oh my God.
Yeah. All right. So up next we have Fitz, and Fitz is not part of the program, so I think he's part of our YouTube or our LinkedIn community. So I will be adding him to the stream now. There we go. All right, Fitz, you are. Oh, you're muted, Fitz.
Sorry about that. Sorry, my camera was a bit off. That's what I was concerned with. Can you see me okay? I think
I
I'm
can
sort
see
of...
you. It's you don't have a lot of light on your face, but we can still make it work. Where are you sitting? Where are you right now, Fitz?
I'm in my sort of study at the minute. Well, makeshift study, if you could call it that.
Which is where though? Where in the
Oh,
world are you
sorry.
right now?
I'm in UK at the minute. But originally from Ghana. But I've been in UK for quite a number of years, about 10 plus years. Yeah, and I'm quite enjoying the country, which is good. Yeah, and I came across your YouTube channel, which is quite interesting, and I thought it's something that I want to get into.
Wonderful.
So
are you
thank you
brand new
for.
to this build?
Say again.
Are you 100% new to cloud?
I have some idea about the cloud.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you been doing work-wise recently?
Recently, I've been working as a system administrator, but more of a freelance.
Okay.
In my previous work, I've been doing software development. So I've been
So
doing.
you're not new to tech then?
No, I'm not new to tech.
Okay.
So I know. So I've been doing React in my previous. So I switched to system administration.
Okay.
Which is mainly with working with Windows machines.
Okay. So predominantly Windows stuff.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So, and you would like to be a cloud architect or solution architect?
I would ideally like to be a cloud architect.
Okay.
That's what appeals to me. Yep.
We can definitely help get you there. So fantastic. Now that I know what you know, I also know you've been working in tech, so I won't take it super easy on you. I'll be midway through because you've worked in tech. So let's begin by telling me about yourself.
Well, I've been a technologist most of my life. Previously worked in software, but now I saw your advert as a cloud architect, and I thought that's really interesting and an area that I want to get into. So I applied for it. Actually, normally when I work in a team. Work with team. I can also work on individual projects on my own. So I can take the initiative that way. I enjoy tech a lot, but I feel that I want to move to the next level, and I'm very interested in your company. I know your company is going places, and I'd like to come work for you because I'm a very motivated individual, enthusiastic, and I can learn on my feet.
Okay, so you hit something pretty dangerous. You talked about the company. So the next question is going to be, what's interesting to us about our company at Amazon?
I think the way technology is moving at the minute is moving a lot towards, I know there's data centers where a lot of servers sit, networking equipment and stuff like that. But the advent in the last, I believe in the last 15 to 20 years, a lot of companies have, because of flexibility and the scale of things, they seem to be wanting to move into what we call the cloud. it is more or less the same as a data center, but the concept is a little different because then companies don't own the servers and the data centers themselves, but they sort of do some sort of pay as you go with a cloud service provider, and they use only the stuff that they need and pay for it, as opposed to having a data center there and then having to look after it, pay for it, electricity and stuff like that. So the trend is moving more towards the cloud, and I think that's where I want to send my skills. I want to sort of move my skills to.
Sounds great, and I love the cloud too. What does the cloud do better than the data center, and what does the traditional data center do better than the cloud?
I think the cloud offers, as I said, one is a sort of pay-as-you-go system. So companies wouldn't have the capital expense that they do on typically in a data center. In a typical data center, people have servers, they have racks, they have space, they're paying for electricity, they're paying for network equipment and stuff like that. And I think some of the costs can be sort of passed on to the cloud infrastructure cloud service providers, and then companies will pay as, they pay for only the sort of time and equipment that they use rather than having to pay all year round. I think that's my inclination. That's the difference between the cloud and a typical data center. I think
so if you're saying cost is the only reason for the cloud, we can say that. If so, what does the data center do so much better than the cloud?
Yeah, so I think the data center is quite flexible because, I think the cloud, my mistake, the cloud is a bit more flexible in that you can have, for example, as a typical example, maybe you've got an e-commerce system. They have various spike periods where they have maybe a sale going on or something. And if their equipment is in the data center, they have to go and purchase physical equipment, and stuff like that. But when they are in the cloud, it's more like scalability and high availability, I believe, and they can sort of at scale, if I could be permitted to use unlimited scaling, they could scale quite quickly with the periods where they are quite busy. They can scale quite fast, and if they have projects, also new projects, they can sort of spin up various VMs within the cloud center, and then sort of bring their projects around quite quickly than if they're in the data center.
And what's the data center do so much better then?
I think there's more advantage in the cloud than in the data center. That's my inclination.
Okay.
What the data center does better, I think it's more disadvantageous to be in the data center than to be in the cloud. That's the way I view it at the minute.
Okay. Well, it's nice talking to you today. And that's what would
Thank you.
happen the second you'd say that. Because there are strong advantages to the data center over the cloud, and there's strong advantages to the cloud to the data center. And we have to be, as cloud architects, we're going to be using both. Okay. And we have to know what needs to go to the cloud and the data center. So if that had been a real interview, it would have ended right there. Okay. And because that would have been a showstopper. That would have been read some certification books, doesn't know data center or cloud. And here's why. If my weighted average cost of capital is 1%, is it cheaper for me to buy it or rent it? Less likely buy it. If my computer systems have to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's cheaper in the data center. If I've got systems that flow smoothly all year long and then spike, it's cheaper in the cloud because it's more agile. And we'll get into much more of that, but and let's go through this because we'll go through the interview. So at that point, You just need to know. So in the data center, can I hire Navy SEALs to be armed to keep people from getting in there? Can I then have a group of Force Recon Marines doing internal security in my data center? Can I then call Cisco and Palo Alto and spend $5 million on firewalls? Can I then include layer 2 access lists, which you can't do in the cloud? 802.1x MAC authentication. Can I deprioritize worm and virus traffic in the data center? Yes, and I can't do any of that on the cloud. So what's the performance, the latency of the cloud? In my data center, 0 milliseconds. Cloud latency, several milliseconds. Does it matter? To some applications, that could be billions of dollars a year lost. For other applications, it's meaningless. So I've got a financial application that does algorithmic trading. If I put that in the cloud versus the data center, I bet you we lose $2-3 billion a year. Is that a good trade? No. To save what? Nothing. But I've got a web app for a retail giant. Am I going to build it for Christmas, or am I going to build for average? And then we know we've got a big sale coming up for Christmas. Do we think auto scaling is going to work? It's not. We're going to pre-warm load balancers. We're going to tell the cloud provider ahead of time to load our stuff up before we need it, because load balancers do well with gradually increasing traffic, but they don't do well with spikes like an email sale campaign. So the auto selling is not fast enough. It could take 45 minutes and you could lose a set of big orders. You have to know how to deal with that. Okay. Now, when you told me about yourself, it wasn't crisp enough. It really needed to be. I'm Fitz. I've been working in tech now for a while. I'm energetic, I'm enthusiastic, and I love cloud technology. You can't tell me you're learning it. Okay. You can't come there because you're interested. You got to know before you get there. So what I'm concerned at as a hiring manager is, can you solve my business problems? Which is, can I send you to the customer? Will you listen to the customer? Will you know enough about their business after listening to them, be able to think about how you can solve their problems? Which means, you've got to have that real business acumen there. I didn't hear you talk about any business things, which, kind of hit me. So if you can marry the business with the tech, in my current role of systems administration, there's a lot of customization, for example. The CEO needs special things for him. The COO needs special things. Our people that are working in this group need special privileges, and I constantly have to consult the people to find out exactly what they need so I can deliver the best solution to them, which you're probably doing. If you told me that, Fitz, I'd say, wow, you're already an architect. Okay. Because that's what we architects do. So as architects, we don't touch the tech. We don't configure it ever, but we design it. So it's all about knowing the trades. When do I use block storage versus object storage? If block storage performance is X, what do I need to do about it to make it perform like Y? Hey, all this stuff that's sitting in our data center, my God, it's old and expiring. Should we take it to the cloud instead of buying new? Let's do a cost-benefit analysis. And when you do an ROI model and you evaluate the company's cost of capital, you'll know whether it's better to rent versus buy. Which is better for you to live in, rent or buy? Did you buy a house or should you rent a house? Can you answer that in 3 seconds? Or do you have to determine how long you're going to live in the house? What's the prevailing rent rate? What's the interest rate? What are the projected periods of time? What's the inflation rate? Would all that matter? When you actually calculated that out to determine if it's good to rent or buy for a house?
Yeah, I think that will come into the equation.
And it comes directly into this every time. Okay. The cloud is so agile. That's why we're moving to the cloud. That ability. So in the data center, we're virtualized too. So I can create a virtual machine in the data center in 3 seconds, and I can create a virtual machine in the cloud in 3 seconds. But how many extra servers do I have in my data center? Yeah. Versus how many extra servers does Amazon have, or Google, or Microsoft? They have maybe millions of extra servers. So it's capacity that we need when we need it. But do we think the cloud can perform as well as our data center? Do you know what oversubscription is, Fitz?
Well, it means I have an idea, but I'm not sure what exactly that is.
So let's say you've got a server and the server has 128 cores in there. If you're creating virtual machines, you technically only have 128 cores. Okay. Oversubscription is as follows. the company sells 256 cores on that same server, even though it only has 128.
Right.
And those 256 cores are running all the time on a server that only has 128. Do you know why it works, Fitz? The cloud providers don't assume that everybody's using their virtual machine capacity fully at the same time.
Right.
Your internet service providers also do that. In your data center, would you do that? Or would you maximize your own capacity because it's just you? You don't oversubscribe your own systems in your own data center.
Certainly.
So there's advantages and disadvantages of each. The agility of the cloud, oh my God. The speed of it, wow, we're using it. The ability to simplify the networking, fantastic. What's the other main reason we go to the cloud versus staying in the data center? It's to get rid of what? Or whom? People. So in the data center, we need lots of people to rack and stack servers. We need people to install operating systems, hypervisors. Do we need any of that in the cloud? No. In the data center, we've got a bunch of network engineers and architects like me, which are really expensive people. Do we need them in the cloud? Maybe one, not 30. So on the cloud, because it's so simple, we can really remove staff, which lowers costs. And we're doing a business case on the cloud. It's probably not going to do it just on the tech.
Okay.
But it will on the tech. It will on the business people. So that's kind of, why I wanted to go down this path. Because, for example, I run a cloud here. I run my own OpenStack cloud. I have 10 24-core servers. Now, I priced it out on AWS, and it was $11,000 per month. So over the course of 3 years, that's over $370,000. Now I priced it out myself, and I bought the 10 servers from Amazon for $10,000, and I don't have any monthly costs, which was cheaper for me. It was 37 times cheaper not using a cloud provider. But did I need to hire a network engineer? No, because I am one. If I had to hire a $300,000 network engineer, that would have changed that completely. If I had to buy the routers and switches and firewalls, whoa, that would have added another $50,000 to $100,000. Wait, cloud's cheaper. So as you can see, every time there's a business case that we need to run. So there is no, this is cheaper, that's cheaper. And that's why I tried to ask you the strengths and weaknesses of each approach, because that's the architect that's on the professional judgment, as opposed to the actual, it's not going to be cut and dry. Hey, rent versus buy. It never will be. So fill in a little bit on the business needs. Get a little crisper on some of these data center technologies. And I'd say don't even learn the cloud, learn the data center. Meaning, if you know what a virtual machine is, guess what? You know what an EC2 instance is, an Azure Virtual Machine, and a Google Compute Engine instance. If you truly understand containers, it doesn't matter if it's OpenShift, it doesn't matter if it's Kubernetes, it doesn't matter if it's Amazon Kubernetes or Google's Kubernetes, because it's all the same. Learn block storage, guess what? Doesn't matter if it's EBS or somebody else's. Learn object storage, great. Doesn't matter if it's S3, Microsoft Blog, Google Cloud Storage, and or Blob and Google Cloud Storage. Why? Because it's the same tech. So if you do that, you'll be in a much, much better position to have these conversations. And by knowing the tech, guess what? In the data center, you know how to migrate it to the cloud too.
Certainly.
So that's what I would do. But seriously, it's a very good start. It's not easy to do this. You're in front of a large group of people, and be proud of yourself, because a lot of this was really good. It really was. It's just, I want to give you the coaching to improve it so you can get the world's best jobs, the most elite jobs. Because guess what? A good interview can not only make the difference between getting hired or not hired, but be another $40,000, $50,000 or pounds in your salary. So let's hear it for Pitts. But that's why I'm being extra picky, because I want you to have the best options. So please understand that's out of care. And good job. Seriously, good job. Cloud hired.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good job there, Fitz. Thank you for stepping up to the plate there.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, really
so I'm gonna I'll put the link to the YouTube stream back in our chat behind the stage here, Fitz, and
Okay.
you can join us over there on YouTube.
And please watch,
Will
because
do.
we're going to have a lot of people from all backgrounds, and
Yeah.
this the best way to get better at. Just watch. You deal with martial artists or boxers. They watch their other competition. I'm told football players watch what the other team does, but I don't know anything about football, at least American football. I know European football, but that's neither here nor there. But, just watch and observe.
Yeah.
Will do.
Chris teaches me about American football. It's kind of cool.
No pressure on our next guy. The next guy has been in the program for a little bit, so you might be able to see a little comparison to what it might be like in a couple of months. So thank you again, Fitz.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Mike.
Great job. Seriously.
All right. So our next one is going to be Robert. And I think you'll be familiar with Robert, Mike.
There's a couple of Roberts. Oh, Robert, it's so good to see you over there in Arizona.
Good seeing you, Mike. Thanks for that introduction, Chris. No pressure.
Great seeing you. So already, perfect. He's wearing a suit and tie. He already scores points with the management for that. So good start already.
Well, you know,
Robert,
something that you said. You have to practice the way you're going to play, right? Mm-hmm. So it's even these little things. It will help you get into that mindset. So thank you for that.
So I love that. So Robert, how are you today? So nice to see you.
I'm great. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for bringing me into your office. I noticed that's a beautiful picture of a cat back there. Is that your cat?
It is. That's my cat, Cindy. She's truthfully my little baby girl.
Well, you know, I'm new to cats myself. I was definitely a dog lover until we got our first cat, and now we got our new cat. And I kind of had to pump the brakes there because now we're up to 4 pets in the house. So I'm a cat guy now as well.
I understand how that happens. So, Robert, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well, thank you again for having me and taking some time out of your busy schedule to meet with me. A little bit about myself, Mike. I've been in key leadership positions for the last 20 years. I've worked with different enterprises, both startup industries and also well-established companies. My experience strongly comes from my time in the automotive industry itself, where I've been in leadership positions. I've trained and mentored other people, and I have also worked in a position where I recently had to implement some file storage and set up some virtual teaching classrooms.
Setting up virtual teaching classrooms, that's kind of interesting. Is it the kind of thing that you just fell into, or is there a reason you're doing virtual teaching classrooms? Because teaching is very interesting to me.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, you know, over the years working in the automotive industry, I've been on both sides of it. I've been new to the industry, and I've also had the opportunity to have people mentor me and grow me and help me to become successful. So that's always something that's always been instilled with me, that I've always wanted to reach back and give back to others. So when the opportunity presented itself with the local school out here in Scottsdale, Arizona, that they're one of the few registered schools that actually prepare students to become successful finance and insurance managers in the industry, I really wanted to take the knowledge that I had gained and impart that with the next generation.
I love that. So you've been doing some teaching. So in our world, we deal with a lot of executives, and they're good people. They're really smart people, but they don't understand anything about technology. And, you know, if we walk in there and we start talking about this tech and this tech and this tech, you know, we get escorted out of the room and our replacements thank us for the fancy new job. So
I can relate.
Tell me, because it sounds like you've done some teaching. Tell me, how does block storage compare to like a non-volatile, an NVMe drive, like a Samsung 980 Pro or one of those NVMe type drives in terms of performance, speed, throughput, that kind of thing?
Sure, and that's a very great question. Well, the block storage is going to be the closest thing that you're going to get in the cloud to a physical hard drive, as you talked about with the Samsung. As far as performance-wise goes, Mike, nothing's going to simulate the performance that you can get out of a physical hard drive. But when it comes to cloud storage, when it comes to the cloud, using the block storage is going to be the closest one that simulates that performance. It's going to behave the closest that it will to an actual hard drive. So just depending on your individual business needs and what it is that you're trying to gain by your transition, we can look at an option, either a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud approach, depending on the applications that we're trying to get established for you and your company.
Okay, heard you mention hybrid cloud and multi-cloud, and that's top of mind for everybody today. Tell me, what's the advantage of going multi-cloud?
Well, going to a multi-cloud environment, one of the key advantages is that you don't place yourself in a single point of failure position, right? Meaning you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. As we've been seeing more and more on the news, as more companies are transitioning to the clouds, it's becoming publicly known when some of these large companies are having these major outages. And so depending on how critical your business needs are, if your company cannot afford to be down for an hour, 8 hours, then I would strongly suggest you move to a multi-cloud environment where we can initially just pivot and transition almost seamlessly to really minimize the downtime for your organization.
You know, Robert, when do I use an application load balancer versus a network load balancer?
You know, that's a very good question. They both sound similar, right? They have load balancing in their titles, but these are the two key differences between using an application load balancer or a network load balancer. A network load balancer is going to give you that big, robust performance and speed. So if you kind of look at it from like a bodybuilding bicep, it's going to be the lifting the heavier weights and jerking them up stronger. So it's going to be for when you need that type of performance out of a load balancer. Now, if you want to go ahead and you have some applications that require a little bit more intelligence and someone to kind of take a step back and kind of see the data that's coming in and process and allocate it to the correct app servers or the correct web servers, that's the difference between an application load balancer versus a network load balancer. It's just we have to figure out which is going to be the correct use for the problem that we're trying to solve for your organization.
So if I want to route between microservices, what should I use?
Well, if we're talking about microservices, that's going to be something that you're not going to, be requiring somebody, to, bench press, 300 pounds. So that's something that a microservice, an application load balancer is more than capable to provide that.
Good. And now I've got a bunch of new AMD servers. They all have 256 cores and about 8 terabytes around. What kind of load balancers I use to load balance these things?
Okay, it's kind of like you're driving a Ferrari. So we want to go ahead and get you then into that next generation load balancer. That's really going to give you that performance, so you can really maximize that Ferrari that you're driving.
Great. I know you don't have a lot of experience, but tell me how you think you can do the job.
That's a great question, and you do bring out that point. I may not necessarily come from a tech background, but what I do bring, Mike, I do bring the ability to listen and hear my customers' wants and needs, and that's something that a technical skill is not taught. A certificate program is not taught, and that comes from the over 20 years that I have working directly with customers, problem solving, and presenting the best solution to the clients. And I really see that this industry, specifically in the cloud solutions architect position, it involves somebody being able to sit down, listen twice as much, and offer the correct, adequate solution for the clients. And I really believe that's one of the strengths that I'm able to transition from my experience.
Love that. I really do. So we do a lot of sales in our world. Have you done any sales?
Yes, I mean, I practically want to say I was born into the sales industry, but I don't want to date myself. So I really thrive in an environment where I'm able to connect with other people, especially customer-facing positions. It gets me excited to sit down, listen to what it is that they really need, because what I have found over my time working in sales in the automotive sales industry is that a lot of customers, they may have an idea of what they're looking for, but until you sit down and you really take a consultative approach and ask the right appropriate questions, can you really present the best solution that's not only going to meet their needs, but it's also going to be within their financial budget that they may be trying to stay in.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to sell me something, and it's going to be consultative sales. So Here's the thing, Robert. I have 5 herniated discs, for real. I have a special massage therapist called the Rolf who come to my house twice a week. They charge me $160 each time, and they've been coming to my house for the last 10 years straight, just so I can sit in a chair.
Okay.
Additionally, it takes me 3 hours of physical therapy each day. And Robert, now that I'm walking through your showroom, I see this $200,000 Mercedes that has special seats designed by orthopedic surgeons that are designed to improve your back pain. Sell this $200,000 Mercedes to me.
Great.
Because, by the way, I'm cheap.
Yeah.
And I don't like anything, and I don't want anything that needs an oil change that costs more than $5 as a rule. So
Right.
under those circumstances, convince me I need this car.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about the discomfort that you experience on a regular basis with your herniated disc. I've had some close friends of mine that have had similar issues, and I know the struggles that it goes through sometimes on a day-to-day basis just to do some of the things that most of us sometimes take for granted. So I'm sorry that you have to go through that, but I'm glad that you're able to get the treatment, the therapies to help you feel a little bit better. Hey, Mike, let me ask you a question. How often do you find yourself driving and leaving your home to run some errands or for work or business?
Honestly, I don't even drive very far because my back hurts so bad when I get into the car, so I have to pay other people to do it.
Okay, so you find yourself investing your time to have other people run the errands for you, like groceries, I'm assuming, maybe dry cleaning and whatever things. Would that be fair to say, Mike?
Absolutely. They do my
Okay.
shopping for me. They deliver my meals for me. So yeah,
And
absolutely.
if I can ask you another question, if your back was not an issue, if you didn't get that discomfort of getting in that vehicle, as you say, it's very challenging. Sounds like the treatment that you receive on a regular ongoing basis allows you to communicate like we are right now. But how much nicer would it be for you to actually not be able to rely on somebody else to do that, but would you enjoy being able to get out of the house and feeling comfortable when you get into a vehicle and knowing that, hey, if you have to, you can drive for 15, 20, 30 minutes and maybe get that sense of freedom back?
Yeah, I would love that if I didn't. So I have the means to pay for the services, but here's the thing. Who wants to need people to do things for you? So yeah, I would love to not have to do this. I'd also love not to spend 3 hours each day doing physical therapy.
Yeah, definitely. No, and that's something that's definitely resonated with some of my other friends and colleagues that I've known that have had similar back issues with their discs. In particular, it's that sense of isolation, right? When you're at your home and you have to depend on other people's. And like myself, I appreciate it when people are able to assist me, but I would rather, have that liberty and have that freedom on a moment's notice. Hey, you know what? If I'm in the mood for sushi or if I'm in the mood for some Jamaican curry, whatever it may be, you can just get up and go right. Now, Mike, how about if the next time you had that urge, if you can just take a quick walk down to your garage, and this time when you sat in the seat of your vehicle, you had no pain, no discomfort, and it actually not only did it apply some nice comfort heat, but actually has a massaging therapeutic effort. How much more empowering and liberating would that make you feel about going up and getting your favorite Jamaican curry or your favorite dish?
God, whether it's Jamaican curries or oxtail soup or my favorite jerk chicken or katanaki. I know I have Jamaican food delivered all the time because I love it, but I can't even make it to the local store. So yeah, that would be incredible for me.
See, now can you imagine yourself next time instead of calling, because I know there's a big difference when we order delivery and they come in and you're still sitting at your home and you're having that same environment. Now, when you're able to get out when you feel like it and not experience that discomfort that your other vehicles that you have owned that cost to you, that bring to you, when you're able to go ahead and go out when you want to on your time, and then guess what, Mike? Now you're interacting with other people. Now you don't feel like you're a prisoner of your four walls. That's what this brand new 2022 Mercedes S500 does for you. It's gonna allow you. It's gonna bring you back that freedom that you have so wanted, the way that you've explained to me.
I really like that. Now I'm really going to think about that because putting it into context, if I get my life back, $200,000 isn't that much.
Exactly, because you're getting your freedom back, right? And what's the one thing that we can't ever replace in this life, and that's time, right? And we don't know how much time we have left. So if you can enjoy the time, and you've worked hard, you put yourself in this position, right, where you can invest in your freedom. And what I'm telling you, there's no other vehicle out there in the market that's going to provide you the comfort and the satisfaction, and most of all, that freedom that you so need.
Thank you, Robert.
My pleasure.
Okay, so the last thing we do in the end, why should I hire you?
You know, that's a great question, Mike. And it always feels like when you're on this end, it's kind of like it's like a loaded question, right? But before, if you would afford me a little bit of room to answer this, what is it that your company would deem as a successful metric for someone that you would bring onto this position?
Well, they'd be a great architect. They'd be able to solve our customers' problems. They'll be able to sell a few $1 billion a year revenue. They'll be able to lead large teams. They'll be able to come in when the engineers irritated somebody by something they said. They'll come in, buy dinners, drinks, smooth, ruffle feathers. We're going to have a team of engineers go build stuff, and I need this person to be the schmooze person to really go in there and raise the energy of the room when the engineers are tired. And I need somebody that can maintain relationships.
That's great. And I really appreciate you taking time to explain that to me. And the things that you mentioned, what I heard in what you were talking to me about, it sounds like you need somebody to be a good listener, and be someone who's able to articulate a solution, whether it's to somebody who's on the C-level executive, whether it's somebody that's in the engineering department, whether it's somebody that you're just going to be walking through across the office on a day-to-day basis, right? And that's what I bring to the table. It's all of those soft skills that I've learned and I've cultivated over the last 20 years of experience that I really feel allows me to be a good fit for this position. I have been able to take the knowledge and demystify and simplify the information that I've learned in the automotive industry and put it in terms and a perspective that's most beneficial to customers. And I really feel that that's the value that I'm offering that to your company.
Excellent, Robert. So let's go through this. By the way, excellent job. So I'm going to tell you what you did well, what you can improve upon. Now, I'm going to say this. 85 to 90% of people would have hired you with that. And I'm going to show you the difference now between getting a $160,000 hire and getting a $250,000 job, because you were that close to the bigger one versus the littler one. But we need to make a few modifications. So when I asked you to tell me about yourself, perfect, rock solid. You literally hit me with a sledgehammer of all the reasons I needed you. I asked you some questions about the tech, and you were strong. I asked you about the business, and you were still really strong. The only thing, when I started it off, you established rapport immediately by asking about my cat Cindy in the background. All of that was perfect. The tech piece was perfect. The tell me about yourself was perfect. All of that was perfect. What was not perfect was the sales. And here's what you did. You used emotional sales tactics. That is how you sold to consumers. You found out what I liked. You found what to connect me to. You were really consultative. It was perfect, Robert, but here's the difference. I gave you some very key metrics. Did you listen to what I told you?
Yeah, you were telling me, and I was trying to take the notes, but I didn't want to interrupt and have you repeat them.
You should have asked me to repeat it.
Yes, I should have. And I really felt that once I started talking, I felt that I needed to pause, regather myself, and ask you to give me those original metrics, because I started writing how much it actually costs you per visit and how much how many times that they're actually coming. So I should have just paused. So yes, you're absolutely right.
And here's what I wanted you to do. What you did was perfect sales for products that are sub $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to be $100 million thing. So here's the difference. You should have said, Mike, okay, let me evaluate this and understand this completely. Mm-hmm. You're saying you spend $300 a week on massage therapists. And you've done this every year for this. So over the course of the year, that's $3,600 on massage therapists. Mike, you said that you spend 3 hours per day doing physical therapy. Mike, you're a cloud architect. The average cloud architect earns $100 an hour. So working on that, it sounds like you're spending $300 a day, every day of lost time, which equals $2,100 a week. So times 5,200 weeks, that's $100,000 right there of lost time, in addition to the $3,000. And Mike, how would you feel about having your freedom back? And Mike, how would you feel? So if you quantified the nature of the business problem.
Yes, and you
and
know
the
what,
value
Mike?
for the solution,
In the industry, that's what I would do on a regular basis. And because of this scenario that we're in, I knew when I started talking about more on the personal connection, I knew that I dropped the ball because I didn't get the data I needed so I can build the financial impact and kind of marry that with the emotional attachment to you. And I dropped the ball. So, really good assessment.
and I'm going to highlight this for one thing, because you were like, until that, you were perfect. I mean, it was perfect. So like I said, you still would have been hired, but doing it on emotion is a $150,000 outcome. Doing the ROI model, like I suggested, where you'd show me that over the course of 3 years, I made $100,000 and got my life back. Whoa.
Yeah.
And then if you amortized it over 5 years and said,
Yes.
wow, $500,000 of value, it's only costing you 200 and you get your life back. I mean, I wouldn't even have thought about it. So
Yes.
you knew that I loved Jamaican food and reggae music. And so started with the cat. That was perfect. Now, when I asked why I should hire you, I would have done that a little differently. I would have said, you should hire me because I've got a strong background in consultative sales. I'm energetic, I'm enthusiastic, I love technology, and I can help you. Now, what you did actually ask was a great question, but the reason it turned me off was you're basically asking me to tell you what you want, and then you're going to tell me the other.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That was something new that I wanted to try this time because I wanted to. Last time I didn't get a chance to ask a question, and
so now if I had asked you a question, which I was almost going to do, and I was going to do it after the why I should hire you. Actually,
that's what I was going to ask you, but last time around I didn't get that opportunity, so I really felt that that's a strong question because sometimes I've always found that we usually get at least one opportunity to ask a question. And that's kind of stuck in the back of my mind. So I'm like, if he's going to skip over me, let me just try and put it in here. Sorry, that was me kind of just jumping ahead.
So the last piece of guidance I have for everybody here, you got a manager that just wants to babble. I went on an interview. And as soon as I went on the interview, I'm here, I'm like trying to expect to prove that I'm smart. The manager talks about this, talks about this, talks about this, talks about this. 30 minutes have passed. And he's still talking. And then he says, tell me about yourself. So tell me about yourself. And he calls him a manager and he says, I'm hiring Mike. And it was like, I sensed he wanted to talk. So don't force it. Really just read. If somebody likes talking, they're comfortable around there when they're sharing themselves.
Yeah. No, great.
Normally, I would ask the question, but I don't know how many people were waiting. And you were doing so good. I didn't think you needed any more coaching other than that one piece. So
I think I kind of self-sabotaged myself. But while I was talking, I was where I'm like, dang, I could have done this. I could have done that. So thank you.
But that's what we do. Go back and watch the replay.
Yes.
I definitely did.
I've sat down. I've watched my own replays a couple of times, both in class and in the live session. I've also had the opportunity to work with some amazing people in the Glow Cloud community where we've actually had some practice time working on this. So,
love that.
Thank you, Mike.
Good job.
Luckily, you've got Isaac, who also went through our program and is working as an architect as well, and another really incredible guy. If you see Isaac before I do, tell him I said hello.
I definitely will, Mike.
Yes. Speaking of which, Robert, I'm putting you on the spot. You and Isaac and about 10 other people are in the Phoenix geographic area. So figure it out.
I'm waiting. We told them, what days, looks like some people are available after the 5th. And so as soon as we get some other people to respond. So anybody in the Phoenix area that has not responded to the Phoenix meetup, please check out the channel link that Chris set up for us and let's get together.
There you go. See, salespeople, even if we don't want to be.
We're always
There's
selling
some
away.
out there, meet up, practice together. Everybody gets hired together, and they get paid more together because. And as soon as you get hired, you bring your friend. When they get hired, they
Exactly.
bring you. And I've encouraged this with all our students, and I know they're doing it, so I love it. So go out there, and one of you guys get hired, and then drag all your friends from Phoenix, who you're going to go out bowling with or talk to each other with.
Yes.
So you have those tight relationships.
Yes.
All
Or if you
right,
like me, do yoga together. But you know, that's just
There
me.
you go.
So Robert, I'm gonna remove you. You can
Okay.
join us over on the YouTube stream.
Please stay with us. You know,
Sure, I definitely
know
will.
yourself, know your competition.
Yes.
Yep.
Always be victorious.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Robert.
The art of war. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
You too, Robert. Great job.
All right. So the next one is going. So we've got Ola next, and then after that we've got Toby.
Did you say Olaf?
Oh no, Ola.
Oh, Olaf.
And Ola has just joined the program, so I'm going to bring him in here. All right.
Oh, hi, Ola.
Hi.
So happy to have you here. I recognize your name.
Yeah. I mean, I got a response from you via LinkedIn about yesterday. Yeah. When you wanted more information about negativity,
Yes.
which I responded to. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you, when I started my career a long time ago, Mike, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that? You can't go from medicine to tech. I said, watch me. A couple months later, I did. When I was told I would never walk again after my last accident, I said, of course I will. And they said, no, you won't. Now, it took me close to 10 years in physical therapy all day, every day. But you know what? I'm here with you guys, and I'm running a company. So the plan is nobody can tell you no. So thank you for noticing that.
Yeah.
So, Ola, I know you're brand new to our program because I don't think I've seen your name for more than a week or two.
Nah, yeah, very, very new, very new. I mean, I discovered as one of the reasons why I joined the program really is actually one of this negativity. I've had a couple experience in IT and few in cloud specifically. And one of the challenges I've faced is actually, when you try to encourage this cloud adoption, being a new thing in such an environment, and everybody just comes at you with this negative attitude. They just don't believe in it at whatever cost, even if it's going to benefit them, even if it's going to make things easier. But they just believe no, it can't work. And so it's in a way kind of I had to resign from where I was working just because of that, because it was really affecting me. So I had to
understand completely.
Yeah, yeah.
So that makes total sense. And so let's start with this. Let's start with it. Tell me about yourself.
I started my career in IT as a software engineer. That was about 12 years ago, and basically Java programmer, and moved over to the United Kingdom around 2014 for the studies. And after my undergraduate studies, I launched out as a consulting software engineer for a few startups and companies. I wasn't really enjoying it because, fine, I love coding, I like programming and stuff like that, but I kind of find myself really talking to customers more, really trying to architect their problems. Really, I spend a lot of hours taking requirements and try to communicate it into diagrams, which is really easier for them to understand, and specifically try to bring out future problems or future challenges which we can talk about as a roadmap to the solutions. So I found myself doing that a lot of time. So I encountered AWS. I had an encounter with AWS where I was trying to solve a customer's problem, and I was just blown away by AWS. And from there, I went to Microsoft Azure, and yeah, since then, that's for the past 5 years, I've been around cloud, just toying with this IBM cloud sometimes. But mostly I spend around AWS and Microsoft Azure. And up till now, I do most of architecting, trying to bring the best part of cloud to customers instead of wasting time on, instead of trying to use method, like I mean on-premises method, which they do not, cannot afford. They cannot really afford, but they struggle to maintain it, and most time they waste money. So, but most of them adopting the cloud has really helped them to scale and really save a lot. That's what I've done.
Okay, very interesting. So, how would you describe a cloud?
Okay, basically, it's a very good question, because this is one of the first thing they ask me, where's the cloud? Because they don't really get it. So the easiest thing I tell them is this: the cloud is just a computer that they list to you to use, because you cannot afford to buy the same machine here. And because of the compute power, the number of resources the amount of resources you need, you can't really afford it. But someone leases it out to you, just to rent your house, a room out to you, and from there they really get it. So basically, that's how I usually use it for them. So it's a computer out there. Some of the resources are listed to you to use specifically for what you need it to do.
You said computer. Is there anything else in the cloud?
Storage,
Okay.
storage, connectivity, even security, connectivity to the network. Yes, I'll include that.
So, let's take it a step further. What is that building that has all the storage and servers and routers and switches called?
Oh, data center.
Okay, so is a cloud just running somebody else's data center?
Yeah, basically, the data center is really the cloud itself.
Yeah. It's just somebody else's data center
Mhm.
that you virtualize and get your own private section of. Okay, that's good.
Yes.
So I heard you say that people can't afford it. How do you determine what people can afford and what's more cost effective for them?
Okay, basically, how I do with the existing infrastructure and what they are consuming it for. I'll take a very good example. The last cost company I worked with, when I got there, everything was on prem, and they have some files on Google Dropbox, some every media files on Google Drive, and all of this is scattered. And they were paying individually for all these drives, and right in the office they have these heavy duty machines. Also, I'm housing a lot of media files, video files, picture files they use for live streaming. Okay, so they pay a lot to buy more hardware storage. They keep buying new storage, pay more for drive on the cloud. At the end of the day, when the bills come, you could see that they're struggling to pay for it. So most of the time I call for them to give me the existing inventory and how much they've spent so far on the resources. Then I bring what they could have done using the cloud, basically AWS S3, to just archive most of these files, or Microsoft Azure. And when they see the price, they'll be like, okay, I was able to move virtually all the files to Microsoft Azure for them, which really saved them. Yeah.
So doing that to the cloud could be much more expensive than it is in the data center, or not. What would determine whether it's cheaper to keep that storage in the data center or the cloud?
Okay, I think it's the rate of consumption, the rate at which they consume, which the size of the data. And for instance, if they don't have so much to really stock up into the cloud, it will be very cheap to be in the cloud. Really, they don't have so much storage, media assets. It will be cheap in the cloud. For instance, on AWS, there's a free tier which they can actually consume without paying anything, instead of buying hardware storages. And so that's a very good example, and it's one of the things I've had experience with, which they barely don't pay for anything to store because of the free tier capacity.
But that's for very small amounts of storage. So let's say we're talking about petabytes of storage.
Okay.
Now, if I keep my storage on the cloud, what cost do I really have to deal with? That may make the cloud storage very expensive.
Okay. Yeah, the rate at which they download and upload the data, not just keeping the data on the cloud, but at which the frequency at which they need to get the data out of the cloud and upload the data into the cloud.
Yeah. So if I'm sending the data to the cloud, is there a charge for it?
No, there's no charge. Send the data into the
But
cloud.
now I've got petabytes of data in the cloud, and I need to use it where my users are. Am I paying to get it?
Yes, you will. You definitely pay to get it out.
So if I'm using that data a lot, is it cheaper to be in the data center or the cloud?
Definitely cheaper in the data center.
Okay, so we can't determine if one's cheaper than the other without running a business case, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the usage patterns determine it. So I'm not smart enough to predict where it's going to be cheaper until I build a business case. And in a lot of cases, it's cheaper in the data center. And in a lot of cases, it's cheaper in the cloud, but it's based upon use pattern.
Okay.
So fair point. So what are one of the ways the companies save costs when they go to the cloud? What are one of the things they're looking to do? What makes it? How does the cloud save the money?
Okay. There's this theory of capital expenditure and operational expenditure. And first of all, if they are trying to build a new environment, and it's a new environment, and they would need to acquire hardware devices, it will be best to first of all give like AWS use the term game days or something like that, to first of all try out the architecture they plan to deploy in the cloud by getting these resources on demand, use it, test it, and shut that down. And if you can validate that this is going to work and it's fine, and you feel that after cost analysis, you feel being on data center will be cheaper, then you can go for that and incur your capital expenditure. But if at the end of the day, your deployment your architecture would favor to be in the cloud more operationally, in terms of operational expenditures, then it would be that would have been revealed, that would have been well assessed and known, and then you would stay in the cloud.
Okay, and since you introduced it, what's going to happen is when you introduce a concept. So what determines if a capital expenditure is cheaper than an operational expenditure? What factors go into calculating those decisions? If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have brought it up. But since you did, that's what's going to happen.
Okay. As fundamental as I understand it, capital expenditure would involve the actual the cost it would take. It would take them to buy the initial devices, the equipment, the storage device, the computer, the server itself, and in terms of operational okay, should I focus on capex for now?
Well, start with both. You brought them up. So when you bring up something on an interview, going back to capital expenses, do you think organizations write a check, or do you think organizations finance things?
Sorry, that was a break a bit. That was a break.
So an organization is going to go buy $50 million of gear from Cisco.
Okay.
Do you think they write a personal check, or do you think they finance it?
I think they'll just finance it, not just
they generally finance it.
Yeah.
So you're paying a mortgage versus rent, effectively. So now, under the capital expense, what determines what goes into that?
Okay. If I were to think in terms of rent and mortgage, which you use as an example, in terms of mortgage, you would have had some capital expenditure you have paid forward, you have invested forward before you actually do the monthly payments like rent. But in terms of rent, you have nothing to pay for forward to make use of the resources in the cloud. So operational expenses, that will be in terms of rent, and capex will definitely be in terms of mortgage, which you have to pay before you start making other expenditures.
Right. So what determines that finance that the company has to deal with? Their weighted average cost of capital, which is basically their blended interest rate. So if interest rates are zero, now is it looking much more exciting and attractive in the data center?
Yes, actually.
And if interest rates are high, is it looking more exciting in the cloud?
Yeah.
So we can't just say OPEX, because there's a shift from OPEX to CAPEX, but for a bank that's got a very low capital cost, it might be cheaper for them to have their own data center because they're not spending a lot. But for you and me, it might be a fortune. In our own data center, it might be cheaper. So everybody in the cloud wants to say, hey, it's great you're going from CapEx to OpEx, but not necessarily. It can sometimes be equally bad to go from CapEx to OpEx because then you don't own anything. So what matters worse? What I wanted to impart on you, especially because you're new, is the analysis that we need to do. Because if you ask me if the cloud's cheaper, the data center's cheaper, I'm going to say, I have no idea. And it's going to take me a long time to come up with that answer because it's going to be different for every customer. If you had a static website, the cloud's the cheapest thing in the world. If you've got an application that's going to do machine learning, that's going to take 8,000 GPUs and they're going to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You could buy that server one time for NVIDIA for 100 grand. Or you could pay 50 to 100 grand per month on the cloud, which is cheaper. Especially when that server might last you 3 years. But that's not a normal use case. So the use case determines where you go. So good job. So what's the difference between block storage? Tell me about block storage and object storage.
Okay.
What do I use for which use case?
Okay. For object storage, which you can upload your files and upload any of the media files or general files in the cloud by basically either through dashboard or using the AWS, the CLI to upload it. But for the object storage, for the block storage, you can mount it into. You should be able to mount it into the server as a drive into the server.
Okay. So I've got something. I want to write it one time and have it read many times. What kind of storage do I use?
You want something and you want it read many times.
I want to write it one time and I want it to be read many times. What kind of storage is optimal for that?
Block storage.
Object storage. What kind of storage is good for things that are going to be changing frequently?
Okay.
Like a hard drive, block storage.
Okay, block storage. Yeah.
What would you use for backup on archival purposes?
Backup, that would be object storage.
How do you get around the poor performance of block storage in the cloud when you need high performance disk storage?
High performance.
Like, let's say I need 1 million IOPS in the cloud, and I can get that on a standard hard drive in a data center, but I can't on the cloud. So how would I do that?
Sorry, the network broke again in between.
Oh, sorry. So let's say I have a server that needs 1 million IOPS.
Okay.
Because it requires very low latency disk access. In the data center, I go to Best Buy and I buy a hard drive for $100. I'm literally not joking that I can get that. Now, that's not a data center hard drive, but it's one that has that speed.
Okay.
What do I do in the cloud? So let's say I deal with a provision IOPS one, an IO1 volume on AWS. It gives me 64K IOPS, which is nothing. But let's say I need 1 million. How do I make that work on AWS?
Honestly, let me submit to you that I really do not have an idea of how I'll be able to do that, how to get that answer.
Totally fair, and we're going to help you with that. By the way, that answer you gave me was good. Let me tell you, if I saw that, I've done 5,000 interviews, and if I saw that, I would have hired a lot more people than I actually did. Because most people bluff or lie, which kills the interview. So that's halfway there. But we're going to tell you how to answer that much better in a minute. We're going to teach you the secret to getting hired on that. So hold on. And why should I hire you?
I'm very enthusiastic, passionate, especially around learning. I'm not afraid of learning anything. And most importantly, I'm very very concerned about customers' needs. I take customers first before my convenience. And what I mean that is that I am very attentive to detail on what they need. And even if I don't have all the answers, I find it very easy to build relationship with people that can help me out effectively wherever I work. I find it easy to build a network of answers around me through people and resources, basically. So uh, I don't think there will be any challenge. That will be so hard for me not to be able to help with. Not because it's not just about me now; it's also about the team that I work with, and I'm quite confident that I will be surrounded by such teams who can help out in case I can't really figure things out.
Do you have any questions for me?
Um, One of the most important question I'll have is the environment in terms of teams working in teams. Uh, um, do do you have a team where they encourage learning, especially I'm not talking in terms of technical. I'm not talking in terms of technical learning now. I'm talking in terms of other other skills on how to handle customer interaction, handle meetings with CXOs and stuff like that. So do they have that kind of environment among teams?
And I killed your interview, but yes, and I'll tell you more later. Absolutely. We provide CXO relevancy training quarterly. We also provide sales training, leadership training, emotional intelligence training, because we want to make sure that our team has the best architects in the world.
No, thank you.
So there are some. So let's go over this. Ola, first, you're awesome. You're very likable, and that, by the way, just letting you know, is one of the biggest factors in hiring. You're also honest, and that is also going to help you in ways that you can't know. So when I asked you to tell me about yourself, it was awesome. It was good. Guess what else? Your technical knowledge was almost good enough, but we'll build it up. Here's what wasn't the business side. So here's my advice for you. In architecture, there's no absolutes. It's like practicing medicine. There's no one drug that works for everybody. There's no treatment plan that works for everybody. So, and you did great. I wouldn't say the data center is always too expensive, so we have to take them to the cloud. I would say in most of the companies that I've worked with, after evaluating the business requirements, we're able to save them a certain percentage and mention what that percentage is by migrating to the cloud. Don't bring up anything that you're not an expert about. So do you know what I know about Java code? Zero. Other than, I think people still write it. But other than that, I don't know anything about coding because I'm an architect. So I would never mention the word Java, because the second I mention the word Java, poof, they're going to sink on me. And here's why. They're going to hear the shakiness in my voice, and they're going to know that's not my strength. And because of that, like vultures, they're going to go there. So the second you mentioned CapEx and OpEx, what I assumed was that you read a certification book, and it said, hey, it used to be CapEx, and that's bad, so going to OpEx is really good. Now, I've seen that on every AWS certified person, but I don't know a single chief financial officer in the world that would say that would agree with that. I don't know any CEO that would agree with that, or any chief operating officer. And the reality is, I have seen people try and say things like that to CEOs, and unfortunately, I've seen after they got fired, the replacements thanked them for the $300,000 job and never made that mistake again. So we got to be real careful when we're in the room with those business people. So don't mention anything that you're not an expert on. Now, you will be soon. And on Fridays, we do this. Last Friday, we did some ROI modeling. Go back and watch that because we addressed some of these things. But you will get that. So don't even touch on anything you don't know. Focus on your thing, because you've got so much tech. You can talk about your leadership and application architectures and finding out. You've got enough to talk about, so keep it to what you're really there. Now, when I asked you a question you didn't know, you did great. You said, I'm sorry, I just don't know. That puts you in the top 5% of all the interviews I've ever done. Now, Ola, here's what you should have done. What three things do you know best?
Programming, in terms of programming, like you said, I should have mentioned Java. Okay, I know Java, and I basically I know up to music. So I know a lot of music, kind of music, and then yeah, two things for
Okay,
now. Really
so I'm going to help you with this one. I'm going to make a little bit up for you. So
okay.
here's what I care about in somebody I hire. By the way, this is what 99% of hiring managers care about. So I went into the following. Can you do the job? Are you technically competent? You demonstrated that to me in the first 3 seconds. Can I trust you? Guess what? When you answered a question and said I didn't know, I trusted you. Ding, ding, ding. You're already doing great. I care that you're energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate. You've already done that. I felt it. I care that you're willing to go above and beyond. It's important to me. And I care if you're a team player. So now, I want you to imagine this. If you ask me about Java, anything, ask me if I know how to be a Java programmer.
Okay. What do you understand around data structures in Java?
Oh, well, let me be completely honest with you. I have no background in data structures in Java. I am not a software developer, but I'm highly energetic. I'm highly enthusiastic, and I absolutely love technology. And for the last 25 years, I've helped customers make better business decisions and have better businesses through architectures that I've designed for them. But I just need to be fair with you. I don't know anything about application design or software engineering. But you know what? If you want to talk to me about cloud architectures or cloud security architectures or big network architectures, I'd love to discuss them with you so we can discuss my technical competency. Now, why do I say this? Well, first, instead of just telling me you don't know something, tell me you don't know something, and then tell me you're everything I want. You're energetic, you're enthusiastic, you're passionate. You know what you know and you don't know. You just told me that. You're motivated. So those things you just told me, you're the answer to my prayers. So I prefer you to do that. Now, when I asked what questions you have, my wife buys shoes. I don't know why she buys shoes. There's 500 pairs of shoes now in this house. It used to be 300, but apparently there's rooms filled with them. When I asked her when she buys shoes, she says, I buy what I like, dear. I'm like, why'd you buy this? I like the buckle. I like the belt buckle. I like the color. I don't know, but she buys what she likes. I don't understand, but she buys what she likes. Hiring managers hire who they like. So I asked my wife, do you ask the shoes? Do you want to come home with you? And she said, no, they're shoes. I buy them because I like them. And my wife turned the question around and she said, on that last Mac, did you ask the Apple if it wanted to come home with you? And I said, no. She said, you bought it because you liked it. I said, yes. She said, that's how people buy things. So that's how hiring managers hire things. So if you go on an interview and you start saying, hey, what can you do for me? What kind of training can you provide for me? What kind of this? What kind of work-life balance? They say, leave. Now, if you said this, if the question was, could you tell me what are your goals, Mr. Manager, so that if I was part of your team, I know that I could make you successful? Now, you showed what you can do for them, which makes them much more likely to hire you and much more likely to pay you a lot more because you showed you the solution to their problems. That's their goal, getting promoted. What's important to them? How to get promoted. Now, when you ask that question, here's what else you learn. Will you be happy doing what in that job, doing what it takes to get that manager promoted? Because that's your real job description. HR's got this thing, it's 50 pages long. It has nothing to do with what we actually do in the job at all. But what your manager wants you to do, that is your real job description. So, that's your perfect time to find out if you'll be happy there too. So you did very good. 1 week in the program, seriously, you did incredible.
Thank you.
But I'm all about getting better every day.
Yeah.
I practice interview myself. Or have executive coaches and recruiters that I am doing it for the same reason, because I want to get better every day. So, great job.
To be honest, the part of where you mentioned the fact that I was honest, I was confessed about it. Like yesterday, I was going through the lectures, and we got to this. Tell me about yourself or something. And you talked about integrity. I actually watched the video twice.
Good.
and it's honestly that was why I had to say that. That was because immediately the question came. I wasn't prepared for it. I was like, okay, just tell him you don't know it. Forget it.
Even that, it puts you in the top 5%.
because normally, I must be honest with you, normally before that video, I would have said, I would have rumbled. I would have like, oh yeah. But that video really made an impact. Really
Good.
made an impact on me. Like, just say it as it is. Just forget it. Just say it. If they're not hiring you, you're better. You know you're. So yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I've done over 5,000 interviews, and 4,950 people lied to me. I mean, it was so bad. It's okay to say I don't know. Nobody expects you to know anything. I don't eat sugar and I don't eat flour or butter, but I had a cookie jar in my office. And the second somebody told me a lie on an interview, I just started feeding them cookies. Figured out how to do a 15-minute interview. I couldn't hire them, so why make it torture? Here's some cookies. So seriously, good job.
Thank
and
you.
Ola,
Thank you very
1
much.
week, very proud of you.
Thank
Very
you.
excited for you. You've got a very,
you.
very bright future, and I can't wait to see what comes out of you a month
Thank you.
because it's going to be even
Thank
better.
you. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you
Ola.
very much.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, too. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. I just realized I was muted while I was telling Ola goodbye. I apologize about that. So the next one that we have is going to be Toby. So I'm going to bring Toby in. And then after Toby, we have Christopher. And so let me bring Toby in.
And I think I saw Dimitri there too somewhere. Hi, Toby. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
Fantastic, Toby. So nice to have you come in to see us today. Toby, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Of course. Thank you for having me today, and thank you for your time. My name is Toby. I'm highly motivated, highly energetic, and I love technology. I have a strong background in leadership, and I've been working in customer care and sales for over a decade. This has taught me how to bring out the best in others and how to talk to people, find out what their challenges are, and come up with a suitable solution. I designed multi-cloud and hybrid cloud architecture, and I was involved in a 500-hour cloud architect mentorship program where they take cloud architects and focus on making them better. And they engaged on our architecture design skills, our leadership skills, our emotional intelligence, business acumen. And I know if I was part of your team, I could help you solve your customers' problems and be a great addition.
That's terrific. So you said you had a lot of background in sales. What's your approach to sales?
My approach to sales will be to try to find out what the customer needs, what his goals are, what his challenges are, and then based on that, evaluate, come up with an assessment, and then pitch a solution depending on what it is.
Yeah, I love that. So it's really about finding out what people need first.
That's right.
Got it. So you also said you had a leadership background. Could you explain that to me as well?
Yes, of course. I have my own company, and I therefore employed or was able to, or fortunate enough to employ people and be able to mentor these people, and which I really greatly appreciated of because they helped me a lot to build my business up, and therefore I can hugely benefit from the experience from this. In the past, I've done lots of leadership roles where I was able to work with amazing people and together always achieve a goal.
Okay, really terrific. What kind of business did you have?
I create environmentally friendly products and then sell them either one-to-one or in person, or I can now build on my distribution network that I built from the ground up and yeah, just sell over that, retail and online.
That sounds like a lot of sales and pricing and marketing. Are you still involved in that?
No, I stopped doing this. I'm fully focused now on working as a cloud architect, and yeah, but I wouldn't miss the experience that I got from it because it's great connecting with people and especially finding out what they love and even helping them bit by bit every day to become a bit greener, essentially for my business background.
Well, where we come from, we're a pretty entrepreneurial company. In the beginning of the year, we give you a business plan. We expect you to do a certain amount of things. How comfortable are you with building a business plan and meeting your objectives throughout the years?
Yes, I'm very comfortable. I'm a really hard worker, and I love new challenges, and it's great to experience new things and help your company to achieve their goals.
Okay, great. Let's assess some of your technical skills. Can you explain virtualization to me? So, like server virtualization, for example?
Sure. So we're talking here about virtual machines. And yes. And this is just simply partitioning a physical server into multiple virtual machines or logical machines. This is done by implementing something called a hypervisor. So you have your physical layer, which is your CPU, RAM, storage, and then you install a hypervisor. Therefore, you can then separate or partition your physical server into multiple logical servers, which have each on their own an operating system, the app, libraries, dependencies. They're fully isolated, which is great. And with the hypervisor itself, you have two types of hypervisors. You have the type 1 and the type 2. Type 1 is the one that's usually used in the business. It's really fast, really efficient. It's just made for its only purpose, single purpose. And then the type 2 hypervisor is the one that you would use like in a test environment. It has an operating system to it, and then the hypervisor would run afterwards. This gives you like a simple management via management console. And why would a business use it? A business would use it when they need extreme isolation, when they need to be able to run their applications on it, at least compared to containers. No, never mind. So a business uses it to when they go into the cloud, when they want to be able to move their applications from A to B in no time, just boot up a virtual machine and go with it.
Okay, so let's assume you've got an application developer at the customer who's made 300 servers and died, and there's no documentation about those 300 servers. What would you do to migrate those 300 servers to the cloud and make them still work even though there's no documentation on those servers?
I suppose that the easiest way would be to lift and shift the operation without having to touch it.
How would you do that? Because that's the only way you could do this, but excellent. So yeah, how would you do that?
We would extract the virtual machines, the AMI, we would create an image of the applications, and then instantly being able to shift into any other server that runs a hypervisor and start it back up.
Excellent. And if you didn't like that cloud provider you were on, if you wanted to move it to another cloud provider, what would you do?
Then we can do just the same thing. All the cloud providers they're all the same. It's just a data center and the network. So you can move your applications from A to B as long as you're not tied in on other sides with any proprietary services.
Okay.
Which might just reduce it.
Terrific. So I love that. So what's a load balancer used for? What's the purpose of a load balancer, really?
Sure. A load balancer is used for distributing network and application traffic into to multiple systems. Load balancers are great because they increase your performance and availability. You have external load balancers, which sitting in a public subnet with a public reachable IP, and you have internal load balancers, which are sitting in the private subnets. To give you an example how it works, assume you have a restaurant and you have a chef. The chef cooks the orders one by one based on how they come in. Then they get really busy. They need to hire a couple more chefs. So now this comes with some problems, because what if the chefs cook for the same meal or the same order? What if someone doesn't show up? What if someone only cooks for specialized food? Here we need a high instance to monitor our activities or monitor their activities of the chefs. We need an instance that can distribute the orders onto the chefs. Someone who can manage availability, specializations, and for most importantly, someone who can decide how many chefs we actually need on the day, depending on how busy we are. This is what a load balancer does for you, which is amazing, because it does all the same things. And in terms to the availability, it also has something called health checks, which makes sure that your virtual machines are actually responding. And if they don't respond, then they're just going to pause sending traffic to them. We have two different kinds of load balancers. We have an application load balancer and a network load balancer. Network load balancers operate on the layer 4 of the OSI model, which is the Open System Interconnect model. Plainly said, it's just how the computer systems communicate over the network. The layer 4 will be a transport layer, the TCP UDP, and the network load balancers load balance traffic based on IP addresses and the port number. So they're really fast, really efficient, because they don't have to do much. There's not much calculating to it. And then there's the application load balancer, which operates on the layer 7 of the OSI model. Here we have so many more information because it's the application layer. So we have the HTTP request header, we have URL attributes, etc. So they are really intelligent, but they come at a cost for being slow. Why would a business need to use load balancers? First of all, it's great because you can distribute incoming traffic based on customers' needs. It increases the performance because you can scale horizontally. It reduces single points of failure, and this way increases the availability for the customer.
Okay, that is really, really, really solid. So I'm going to ask you one last question. Let's say I want to do a multi-cloud environment. I want to have the same security on everyone. Where would I get a firewall that I can use in AWS, Azure, and Google? I have the same firewalls architected with the same policy.
Yeah, if you want to use something that's not proprietary, and which I would recommend always to do anyway, would be something Cisco or Palo Alto, which are just huge players in the business. They've done it for centuries or decades, sorry. And yes, I would take a next generation, or depending on what the business needs, a firewall from those guys.
But where do we get it?
Where we get it? You mean where we put it on a system?
Yeah, but where do we find it? Because where do we get these things? Is it like a WAF thing, or is there some special place we have to go?
Depending on the cloud provider, it might be called a marketplace. It might be called just where you get third-party applications. Sorry.
Okay, fantastic. So, if we have two virtual firewalls, what do we need to make sure they stay high availability?
We would need a load balancer, because
what kind of load balancer? Network load balancer, application load balancer?
A network load balancer.
Excellent. Okay, so why should I hire you, Toby?
You should hire me for the following reasons. I'm very passionate about the job. I'm a hard worker. I'm happy to go above and beyond for the company to find the best solution for the customers, and most importantly, make sure the customer is satisfied. I can raise the energy in the room, and I know how to bring out the best in others. I can look at your problems, help you solve them, and make sure your team performs more efficient. I will do everything I can to make sure your company and you will be successful.
Yeah. Toby, I love it. I really do. Seriously, Toby, that was exceptionally good. Exceptionally good. You've been with me, what, 2-3 months now?
Yes, I joined January.
So, yep, that's about where I'm starting to feel, because you're getting close there. So, to tell me about yourself, good. The why I should hire you, good. You explained the technology very, very well. In fact, you gave me so much that I knew you knew the tech. There was
I just saw your cue, you didn't pay attention. I was like, okay, better stop now.
No, but I actually was trying. Well, there's 3 things that I was trying to do. I was trying to go to my question list to keep coming up with questions. Because I go to question list on one monitor, and if I look here, I can see your body language. If I look here, you can see my eyes. So the monitor that I looked at versus the camera are in 2 different locations.
Okay, I just stopped talking because I thought you were just not paying attention.
No, but you did good with that, and I was watching you watch me, and I also like that. I saw you doing that, so it was good. So here's the thing that I would say. The only thing that I would improve is I'd try and add a little more executive presence or gravitas. So what happened is when you were describing things, you spoke, and it was all accurate and all good. But at some point, it started to feel a little more monotonous, and a load balancer does this by doing this and this and this and this and this. And it was all good. But what I'd say is take a deep breath, get your first point out, pause, collect your thoughts, get your next point out. So basically you said a load balancer is a device that creates high availability by removing single points of failure. And if you had said a load balancer is a device that removes single points of failure, a load balancer is a device that improves performance and availability by load sharing and avoiding single points of failure. It feels different.
Okay.
So just a little more change on the tone. Now, mind you, English is not your primary language, is it?
No, I live in New Zealand, but I'm from Germany, yeah.
Yeah. So I sensed the German, but also something else. And that's what I was trying to figure it out, because it wasn't Australian, but there was German in there, but there was, okay, so you're from New Zealand. That makes sense. I haven't been to New Zealand in a while, but it was fun the last time I was there. I used to get to Australia constantly.
You should come, definitely. It's a lovely country here.
I've been meaning to get there. I used to go to Brisbane constantly, Melbourne constantly, and Sydney constantly. But I'll definitely need to get.
Thank you so much for your feedback.
Toby, it was really, really, really solid. So just practice delivering a little more, make a point, pause, make a point, pause. I mean, you would easily be hired, easily. But I just want you a little better.
Yes, so definitely.
You know, you can do the same interview. And if you do it better, then you're not a cloud architect, you're a senior cloud architect. I mean, my first job as a senior cloud architect, Joe Mellon from our group, his first job at AWS as a senior cloud architect, it was his first cloud job. Now, granted, he's in the networking world from me, so he had a lot, but you know, it's all in just that. So I'm really, really excited and happy for you, Toby. Very happy.
Thank you so much. Great
job. Can't wait to see more from you soon. And I'm looking forward to getting that phone call in about 6 to 8 weeks that you're cloud hired too.
Yeah, I'm just trying to finish the professional certification and then look for jobs.
Fantastic. Fantastic. That made me awfully happy, Chris.
All right, and now I'm off of mute. Yay. I remember how to use these buttons. So that was a great job, Toby. So let's hear it for Toby. I was excited about that one. I saw him. He reached out to me beforehand. He's like, I want to do it. I'm like, all right, I'm putting him on the list. So let me remove Toby. And the next person that we're going to bring in is another familiar face. We did have Christopher, but Christopher had some technical. Removed the wrong person. There we go. We did have Christopher lined up. Christopher had some technical issues, but yeah. So we've got a surprise for you. Surprise.
Dimitri. I'm so happy to see you there, Dimitri.
Same me. Thank you for having me today. I very enjoyed to join your party, interview party.
So Dimitri, I know you from lots of capacities. Your end goal, is it to be the CCIE network architect or is it to be the cloud architect? I can prepare you for either. I'm both myself.
As a cloud architect.
As a cloud architect? Okay. But you're with the cloud networking specialty? Or just generic cloud?
I've not decided yet. So, like as you know, I got my associate AWS certification associate, and right now I'm studying for the professional. But right now I'm more like learning toward CCIE, and I'm spending more time to do labs and reading books for CCIE.
Good.
I think it's very important right now to have, and I think I need more knowledge of the deep knowledge of the networking. It's going to be very helpful for me in the future.
It sure will. And let me tell you, the better you know the network, the better you know the data center, which means the better you know the cloud. So I'm all in for that. Because you're doing the CCIE, because I know you, I'm going to be a little harsher on you because I know where we can get you with that CCIE.
Don't
And I
go.
also
Don't go.
know who you know. I know you know my good friend Christina, and I know I always tell her about my friend Dimitri that she needs to take extra good care of, who she really likes. She says, "Oh, I know, the professional wrestler from Belarus." I said, "Yep, that's the guy." So I'm always thinking about you. So I'm going to begin with this. Tell me about yourself. Then we
Sure.
get to the other stuff.
Hi, Mike. First of all, thank you so much for having me today here. Let me tell a little bit about myself. I've been a network engineer over 7 years now. Currently, I work in a company whereas I provide network. Hold on. Where I manage network infrastructure for over 100 people in the company. We have remote offices all over the United States. We have an office in New York City, and also we have a huge data center in New Jersey where I maintain mostly all the network devices and all the network infrastructure. So before this company, I've been working for the management provider company in New York, and I've been facing different customers, and working with different vendors. It was good experience for me because I was able to learn a lot of stuff with working with different vendors such as Juniper, Cisco, Palo Alto, HP. And at the same time, I was able to meet personally with the clients, ask them what's their needs, what's the issues, and I was enjoying this job because I can do this technically stuff, and plus I can drill my soft skills when facing the clients. So currently I'm rolling on the Go Cloud Hired program, and prepare myself to get CCIE certification.
Love a CCIE background there, Dimitri. I have it myself, and let me tell you, it will help you with everything. So that's a fantastic background. So let's say you have two direct connections to AWS. One's through AT&T, one's through Verizon. How do we make sure that we can load share across both without getting out of order packets? What options would we have?
So we're gonna use first of all, we're gonna use the protocol BGP.
Yes.
And we're gonna load balancing the traffic between two direct links. You can use the routing policies to tell like what subnet has to go one link and then what subnet has to go the other link. Also,
Okay.
I believe you can do load balancing per packets. Like you can spread 50-50, but I'm not sure about this.
Okay, is there a way that we could prioritize one link over the other?
Yes, we can. With the BGP, we can add a AS number, AS, so it's going to be more preferable than other way. So the way how to do this, you just you're adding in the policy you AS pass. You're just adding more autonomous systems, and it looks like it's going to have a longer path, so it's going to take the other way. Because we know
Love that. We can prepend to make one path look ugly. Excellent, Dimitri. What's another tool that we could use? Or a parameter that we could tune.
There is the distance. We can use the distance, local distance preference.
Okay. But are there any other BGP attributes such as weight or local preference or multi-access discriminator or anything like those things we can tune?
Local preference, right? Local preference. We can actually. I've been using this local preference at my work, because we have a direct connect to the AWS, and we have three connections to the ISPs, to the 3 different ISPs. And I was tuned my routers to prefer one of the ISP instead of the others. Just change the local preference to higher number, and then I can see it right away on our monitoring tool, so the traffic starts direct to that path.
Okay, good. And I just wanted to know that you were familiar with those BGP attributes, so you know how to tune them. Have you worked with any IGPs like OSPF?
IGP only, yeah. I do have a OSPF at my company implemented.
You have a full-scale OSPF environment?
I used to do. Right now, we just only area 0, but we're still using OSPF because we have a Hadoop cluster, and we to separate domains, to broadcast domains. So we're using routing protocols, because when you use a routing protocol, it's divide broadcast domain. So we have OSPF on our core switch and OSPF on the Hadoop cluster. But when we have 2 offices, we have area 1 and area 2, and so area 0 is the backbone.
What are the addresses OSPF uses to reach out to each other? The multicast addresses?
Multicast to 224.0.0.5 and 224.0.0.6, I believe.
Excellent. Good job. If I ask you the 5 types of LSAs that exist in Area 0 and what they are, could you be able to tell me?
Yeah, so there is a LSA, it's link state, it's like messages. So the routers, the OSPF, how it works, it's choose the backup router, I forgot how to say, BD, and backup of BD routers. So it send links, it's create topology by sending links, and there is 5 LSA links, but actually could be 7 if you want to implement the external routes to OSPF. And
okay, and that's fair. And I probably should not have asked you that question. You did come to be a cloud architect, but I so loved your networking background. I thought I would say, hey, the type 1s are the network LSAs. The type 2s are basically created by the designated router. The type 3s are your summary routes in between areas. Your type 4 are related to ASBR or autonomous system router reachability. And your type 5s are externals. And you very intelligently said, yes, you can also have a type 5, or type 7, which is a type 5 in the not so stubby area. So great job there. I really pushed you way outside the cloud world into the heavy duty networking world because I wanted to see how far we could push you. So let's come to this. So I've got a virtual machine. What kind of storage do I use for it? Do I use block storage or object storage as a hard drive in that virtual machine?
It's object storage.
So as a hard drive?
No, on a hard drive, it's block storage.
Yes, exactly. So what's object storage used for then?
It's object storage. It's objects with the metadata about the data, and object storage using, like you mentioned, it's read a lot and write once.
That sounds good. Here's a question for you. I've got a gigabit Ethernet link. How much data can I transfer per minute on that gigabit Ethernet link, assuming no overhead for Ethernet? Like, what would be the maximum capacity in megabit per minute?
What's the maximum bandwidth, maximum capacity?
The amount. What's the maximum? What's the maximum amount of traffic that you can transmit in terms of gigabits or terabytes or whatever that would be per minute? In gigabytes or petabytes or
for 1 gig link or
yes.
for 100?
How would you calculate that?
I cannot answer this question right now.
Okay, so we have 1,000 megabit per second. How many bits to a byte?
1024.
So we did 1,000 divided by 8, which gives us 125 because there's 8 bits to a byte, approximately. I'm doing it in my head. I'm not my math genius, but it should be 125. And how many seconds to a minute?
60.
How many minutes to an hour?
60.
And how many hours in a day?
24.
How much can you then calculate how much you could do in a day? You would take the 1,000 divided by 8 times 60 seconds times 60 minutes times 24 hours, and that would be your answer.
Okay, I have to write down everything.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about security. A firewall is stateful. What does that mean?
Yeah, there is two options: stateful and stateless. And stateful, it's inspect packets in and out, and the stateless it just let packets in. So it's aware of the source and destination.
Okay, so the stateful is watching it, and the stateless is
Right.
not?
Yes.
Excellent. So I have a subnet, or I have 192.168.0.9/32. 192.168.0.9/32. I'll say it again because in case you didn't get it. 192.168.0.9. It's a /30 subnet. Where does that subnet begin? Where does it end? Meaning, what's the network address, what's the broadcast address, and what are those two usable addresses in there?
Okay, so hold on a second. So 0, 3, 4. So the network is going to be 192.168.0.9. The usable address is going to be 10 and 11.
Is going to be what?
It's going to be the subnet is going to be .9, 192.168.0.9, and the usable IP is going to be .10 and .11.
Okay, where's the subnet start again?
The subnet is 192.168.0.9. This is the network.
Does that sound like a network subnet to you? So, /30. The first one begins 192.168.0.0. Where does it end?
0.0. It's going to be 1 and 2 usable address. 3 is broadcast.
Okay, where's the next one begin?
Okay, so I make a mistake. .4, right?
Where does that end?
So it's going to be 8. Okay, so it's 192.168.0.8. Network /story, right? It's 9 and 10, right?
They're usable. And what's the broadcast?
.12.
Dot what?
.12. No, 9. Oh, hold on. 9, 10, 11. .11.
So where's the next subnet begin?
.12.
Okay. Where does that end?
12, 13, 14, 15.
Excellent. So where's the new one begin?
16.
Okay.
By
So, all right.
Yeah, I just make a mistake in the broadcast.
Yeah, I've done it myself millions and millions of times. So we've got a virtual machine. This looks like a VLAN. Take a switch, chop it into multiple switches. We have this concept called a private VLAN, where we've got a whole bunch of servers in a single VLAN, and none of them can talk to each other. Is there a cloud-based virtualization technique that's almost identical on the computing side that feels just like a private VLAN that's analogous to it?
Private VLAN.
If I took my operating system and had a whole bunch of independent applications on it, and they couldn't talk to each other, and they were prevented from talking to each other, but they're all secure on my system, what would that be?
Containers, right?
Yeah. What do we create in virtual private VLANs where one server can't talk to each other? Kind of the same thing.
It's containers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason I went down this path, I haven't seen you in a little while, which is totally fun. We'll see much more of you, and we'll get some of that Tech stuff. And you can come to class, and we could talk about networking stuff too while you're doing the CCI. I don't care. Love talking about networking things. So what I'd say is, let's spend some more time in class. All good. Keep doing the CCI. Do it. We'll work on those routing protocols a little more.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I do my labs and like every day a little bit by a little bit, but it's like the readings material. It's a lot. I have an understanding, but to memorize and answer questions like you're asking, for example, for LSAs, exactly what they mean, I probably need to read 3 times the book.
Yeah, I read it 10, not 3, 10. I read every one of the CCA books 10 things, but here's the thing. See, in our architecture world, on your CCA exam, they might say, you have an area that needs to have routes redistributed from RIP B2, and you can't have any type 5s in the area. So that means you need to know that it's got to be a not so stubby area that you actually have, and you need to architect that in the CCA exam. So let me explain why to the community I went techie on Dimitri here. The reason is this is working on a CCA exam, which is a network engineering thing. Now, if it was pure cloud architect work, and when I asked him that, how do you load share? And he'd say, Mike, it's easy. We put one subnet on one side, one subnet on the other side. Or we change the weight on one route versus another route. Or we prepend the ASs, which he really told me about. Or we change the local preference. Or we change the med. That right then and there, I wouldn't have hit him with any more technical things. Just to let you know. But I know his goals, and a lot of them are outside of networking. So I'm trying to help him to just make that clear. So because he said CCI exam, I wanted him to feel what the CCI exam is like, and that's what it is. They're literally going to ask you this, and they're going to say, design an environment that does this. So for the cloud architect that focuses on networking, if that's your goal, and I know you're working in your CCIE because one day you told me you want to be a cloud architect, the next day you told me you want to be a network architect, and then you said cloud, and then you said network. So I love that, by the way, and I am equally confused. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Because some days I'm a network architect, some days I'm a cloud architect, sometimes I'm an enterprise architect, sometimes I'm a cloud network architect, and I go both places. And I knew your goals were networking, so I went to there. So when you go through the CCIE, think about it more in terms of design. Think about how it works. I gave you a monstrously scary interview. Truthfully, I gave you a $250,000 network architect interview while you're working as a network engineer. So I wanted to see how far you would go because I know your goals. But you did really solid. A little more knowledge on BGP? Yeah, sure. But you haven't finished the CCIE yet. You did great. Who would ask you the type of the LSAs that exist in Area 0, serious about an interview, other than Cisco for a distinguished architect position? But I did it anyway because I wanted to see how far you could go. And Dimitri, you'd be getting cloud hard and network hard. I'd hire you as a network engineer. You know what? In 3 months, I'd hire you as a network architect too.
Hope so. I mean, it's my
going from that hands-on, which you know better than me, to the design.
It's my personality to understand something. You have to learn deeply. That's why I'm like drilling these labs every day, because just reading books is not enough. You have to just get your hands dirty and just lab. Then you start to understand what's going on.
Some people do. For me, I do lab, and it doesn't teach me how it works. I have to learn how it works by reading it. I read the RFC.
It's complex. It's watching videos, labs, reading, all this stuff.
So I understood it in my mind. Then it's like, that's a stupid configuration for me. But in my heart, I was always an architect and not an engineer. So really, I'm very impressed. I gave you something that was way, way, way out of normal comfort zones because there's this. Now, also, something we didn't talk about. I know what language you think in.
Yes.
And I asked you some tech things that most people could never answer. So again, even better job. If I had to do this interview in Greek, it'd be a lot harder for me. And I could do it, but I would have had less gravitas. I would have been, the words wouldn't have as much vocal tone variation between them. Half of the thinking I would have to do would be how to translate it. So, good job, well done. I seriously keep at it. You'll come to some of my classes recently because I can push your networking a little further because I love pushing networking.
Yeah, I will. I'm enjoying being in the classes. Just I have some at my work, some changes at my current job, so it's a little bit hard with the schedule. But as I will join it as I can.
Well, you know, initially you were able to, and then you weren't, and that's okay. We're flexible. If you need to take off 6 months, come back, and then get that cloud architect job or the cloud network architect, we want you back. I don't care. Just anytime you can make it, you make it back. We are always thrilled to have you, and you did a great job today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys, for having me today.
Thank you, Dimitri. Seriously.
It was a good experience.
And by the way, phenomenal goals. I'm so excited for you. I really am.
Yep. Thank you, Dimitri. That was great. All right. So I'm going to let you go. You can join us back on the YouTube stream, and we'll bring in the next one. Thank you again. All right. So, so next we have Martin, and I'm not quite sure if Martin's connected or if he might be having some issues. So I'm going to add him in to see if it's working. And if not, I've got Abhishek in the background ready to go. So
Look forward to speaking to Abhishek as well.
All right. So let's see. Martin, are you there, Martin? So we'll give Martin a few seconds to try and connect. To make sure.
Is this Martin in the Netherlands or
no?
Another
This is not Martin. Jesus, I can't do it. All right. I think he is. I think they have a Cloud Heroes Africa class going on right now.
Oh, good.
So, so that's so you might notice there's not a.
Oh, that's why half of our team is.
That's why. That's why you don't see Abigail and Marcin and Eva and Chow and all of them. They have they're doing the Cloud Heroes Africa class right now.
Excellent. I feel so good about that.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that afterwards. I was going to tell you, oh, yeah, by the way, your normal people weren't here because they were doing their volunteer work for the community.
Right. Anytime any of our people go work with our sister, really good friend company, Cloud Heroes Africa, with my really close friend, Samoa, I'm excited.
All right. So Martin did not come in, so we'll bring Abhishek in. And I apologize if I've mispronounced your name.
No, that's fine, Chris. Yeah, nice to see you, Mike and Chris.
So I am going to recommend that you turn your camera off because there's latency on the visual.
What a cool background, though.
Yeah, I love the background. But if you turn the camera off, unfortunately, we'll have to do it without the camera. Otherwise, it would just be a bunch of lag. So,
okay.
All right. So I'm going to remove myself and have you get started. All right.
So, can you see me?
I can't see you, but you did have some latency before where it looked like. So we were a little.
Yeah. So we can't see you on purpose. That way we can hear you.
Lower the bandwidth requirements.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So before we begin, Abhishek, tell me your goals and also tell me what you're doing now.
Sure. I've been working as a PeopleSoft developer for the last 9 years. And before that, I started my IT career as a data analyst. My goal right now is to apply my knowledge and past skills and experiences into a cloud architect role. And I would like to deliver my skills and my interest and apply those in order to gain more experiences as a cloud architect.
Okay, Abhishek, that makes total sense. So now we'll begin the interview phase. So Abhishek, or Abhishek, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I have over 9 years of experience in IT as a developer, as a software engineer. Mostly I worked as a ERP PeopleSoft developer. Also, besides that, I have extensive experience in data analysis. I'm skilled in SQL, also skilled in data reporting, data visualization tools such as Tableau. And I've been, learning in IT every day in as IT professional, and I am looking forward to apply my skills and my interest towards cloud architect role.
Okay, that sounds really fantastic. I really love that. So you said you had a big data background and a data analytics background. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, correct. As a software engineer, like I also created programs using like particular like vendor specific, people specific coding format. I had to create like automated reports, automated processes. As well as doing that, I had to do a lot of data analysis because all this processes is based on data, such as HR data, financial data. So general ledgers, accounts payable, accounts receivable, those kind of data, as well as human resource data such as employee information, employee um, uh, duration, employee salary, employee benefits, those kind of information as well. So I had to analyze data on a regular basis. Yes.
Excellent. Have you ever created a data lake before?
Uh, no, but data lake is a new concept for in cloud, which I did not have the opportunity yet. But I have created data warehouse using Snowflake and Star Schema, and so I had gathered uh, data from different sources, different data marts and data stores, and apply ETL tools, extract, transform, and loading tools. Apply logic, ETL logic to load those data into a data warehouse for conventional data like storage concept.
Excellent. Are you familiar with various databases then and that are out there, like industrial databases?
I'm familiar with Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle databases, different versions I've worked with, as well as Microsoft SQL Server, different versions I've worked with. So those are the two main database system I worked with.
Okay, and that's fair, and they're pretty much the same two I'd be using on the cloud. But also, let's go there. Have you worked with NoSQL databases?
I had very limited experience with MongoDB. I had to work with some AWS lab type of work where I had to use MongoDB and AWS in an AWS platform. Yeah, very limited though. Yeah.
Okay, but so you've got some background still. Let's say I want to create a multi-cloud environment and I need flexibility and schema and near unlimited scalability. And I want it to work and simultaneously work on AWS, Azure, and Google. What kind of a database could I use? And I don't want to have to do any proprietary in coding or development to exchange information between clouds. I want it to work natively. But what can I choose database wise? Both start with NoSQL databases.
All right. So for like you could use any open source NoSQL database system, such as Hadoop or like there could be many, different. Any you can choose any depending on your need, and then store those data, connect sources to that NoSQL databases, as well as have a RDBMS, Relational Database Management System database as well, to store categorize data, where you can categorize the data and store it there as well. and then connect that to different virtual platforms like cloud platforms such as Google, AWS, or Azure, and then extract those data from there, those databases, and apply those into different services that you wish to use.
Okay. Wow, I thought you would just put MongoDB on all three clouds and not enough need to worry about Hadoop clusters, ETL tools, or any of that.
MongoDB would work. I mean, as far as I know, it would work only in AWS, but I'm not sure if it works for other cloud platforms. So maybe if it does, then yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah. So, Abhishek, in a lift and shift, I create a virtual machine image of what I have. Can I not take that same virtual machine and stick it in any cloud provider I desire?
For lift and shift, yes, you can. Like basically, you are just taking those database from your on-prem data center and then just store it in a virtual cloud database system. Yeah, sure.
So if I want a relational database that I can use in every cloud and not have to deal with silly Hadoop clusters and ETL tools and people writing Python Spark scripts, and I just want it to work, which of those relational databases that you have experience with will work on all clouds with zero modification if you just move the virtual machines there?
Like Azure has its own, like Azure would work with SQL Server. Just if you have database in SQL Server, and you could connect in Azure.
Is that proprietary?
No, it's just not really. I mean, for AWS has like AWS Redshift, it has its own RDBMS, but I just know that for like in SQL Server, it can work within Azure, but I'm not sure if it works with Google, GCP, or AWS. I hope it does.
That's fine. I'll stop you here. I was trying to check your agility on the interview because I asked you if you could take a virtual machine from one data center and move it to all the clouds. So you said you have experience with Microsoft SQL and Oracle database, right?
Correct.
If you want it to work on all three clouds, what do? You take that virtual machine and stick it on all three clouds. You don't get involved in any cloud proprietary anything.
Okay.
So if you want to go multi-cloud, you can't use anything that AWS or Amazon or Microsoft made. You pretty much throw it out and then go do it the same way you did in the data center. That's what I wanted to see if you know how to do.
Okay.
But that's okay. We'll get you there.
All right, got it.
We'll get you there. So let's talk about storage. Given that block storage is slow, what do we need to do when we need to get extra speed? How do we speed it up?
Use speed up in terms of like network storage.
Let's say we need greater megabit per second throughput and IOPS, input output operations per second.
Add more storage to it.
That doesn't make it faster though.
Apply higher bandwidth internet speed connection.
My storage gives me 500 megabit per second throughput. I have 100 gig Ethernet connection, which could give me so much more than that. So it's not the network performance, it's the disk performance. So how do I improve disk performance? Because this is critical in cloud architectures, because block storage is low performance.
Apply like parallel storage, so you can like instead of you can like copy and have multiple storage where you can like store different like same thing in multiple storage so that you can make it faster and
you're getting closer. Is there a way that we can take a bunch of hard drives that are slow, combine them together into something fast that gives us increased capacity and increased speed?
Yeah, you can.
What's that called? It's a data center technology term, but it works in the cloud too. It's called the same thing in the cloud. Give you a hint. Almost every server has it.
Data disk storage.
Redundant array of inexpensive disks called RAID. That's
Okay.
how you deal with the speed and performance problems in the cloud. You put multiple hard drives together.
Okay.
But it's okay. We've got plenty of time to work with you and help you with some of these things. We'll get you there. It's a process. So, and every day, there's lots of things that we have to learn. I learn stuff every day too. So
Yeah, I don't have much knowledge in terms of networking or like data centers, like those kind of like hardware related stuff. The only thing I learned basically, I'm not from IT background. The only thing I learned was data analysis, and from there I learned about the HR and finance systems in ERP systems, and then I've been working in the ERP and just surviving through it. So right now I'm trying to switch to cloud, and I thought that learning AWS or Azure would be good enough to get me a job. But it seems after joining your program, it seems that it's better to learn a very like comprehensively learn everything, so that I will not be dependent on any proprietary, system.
and that's okay. You've only been with me for how long?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh, yeah. So I mean, 2 weeks. In 2 months, we look at the people like that have been with us for 3 months. You've seen a couple of them. The 2 people that were with us for 3 months were Robert and one other person. For 2 weeks, you're doing great. You know a lot about the software side. So given that the cloud is mostly network and data center stuff, that's what we're talking about. But it's okay. So let's go with one more tech thing, and that's okay because you're going to get there. Let's say I needed the speed of a network load balancer, but the intelligence of the application load balancer. Is there anything that I could do that would blend them?
Application load balancer would blend them. What do you mean? Like, you're saying there's application load balancer where you want to deploy application into various virtual machine, right? Or
let's say I need the intelligence of an application load balancer to say route between microservices or containers, but I need the speed of a network load balancer because the application load balancers aren't fast enough. I might need 15 application load balancers. What could I do?
You can use alternatively like a network load balancer where you could, distribute it faster depending on the network speed to different areas, different like availability zone, like based on where they are located, the data center is located, and then store those microservices or containers in parallelly at different data centers through the load balancers, like data center, or like through virtually like that.
Okay, we can work with that. Wasn't help, but there's a logic behind that I can actually accept. Last question: why should I hire you?
Well, I have been in IT for a while, and I have worked with different professionals in IT environment. Worked with business analysts, project managers, architect, and also testers, and different from different background. And I have learned different ways to learn different skills, and as well as apply my skills. And I'm very much curious about cloud architect role. I've been learning every day, and I'm very curious, and I have this ability to imagine the whole the big picture, how I can solve the main problem of a customer, whatever and also how the solution would sustain for a long time, and those kind of like skills or or like knack of solving problems. Uh, that kind of like encourages me to be in this field, and I believe that I can, progress much faster than being being a software engineer. That's why I am, I've been I think I'll thrive, and I will outshine in this profession. And while doing so, I can contribute significantly and being a value addition to your team and your company, and also to your clients as well. So that is very important to me.
Great. So let's kind of walk through this. So, truth be told, to tell me about yourself, the way you introduced yourself was really, really good. I really liked it. Now, what I found is, I believe you have a strong background in putting things together, developing software. There's no question in my mind with that, which is really solid because I can prove some form of technical competency. And sometimes we just need to know that somebody's competent in something. Because if you're a competent networking person, you can learn cloud. If you're a competent software engineer, you can learn networking. But just knowing you can learn something is already there. And we got that, and I really like that. What became clear is that you're still really learning the cloud. And that's okay. We've only had you for 2 weeks. So, we have to get you to the point that knowing that a cloud is just a network and a data center, and everything that exists in any network and data center is the same thing that exists in the cloud. And granted, we've only had you for 2 weeks, so you can't learn this much that fast. So knowing how those servers work. So realizing that, hey, the same thing that you worked with every day in your life, now you can use in the cloud the same way. You set up Microsoft SQL Server on a virtual machine in your data center, you can do it in every cloud. What you can't do when you go multi-cloud, or you want to really avoid, is you want to avoid everybody's database management systems completely. And here's the reason why. AWS has all their proprietary stuff. Azure has their proprietary stuff. Google has their proprietary stuff. And if we need to have application integration and developers do this, it's never going to work right, and we're going to be spending so much money on it. So don't try to integrate complicated systems. Use the same system and just avoid the whole complexity. So yes, we lose a little innovation with that, but we also gain greater availability, performance, security, and a whole host of other things. So we have to determine the business case. If it goes single cloud, it's easy. You just use a DynamoDB. Now, there's risks associated with that, but there's benefits. But in multi-cloud, that's not really an option. So Abhishek, good job at that, and you started to get there. Now, when you said you didn't really know a lot about the network and the data center, you wouldn't want to do that. You might want to say, I've not had the opportunity to do a large number of lift and shift migrations, but I know a lot about ETL tools, Python Spark scripts, building data warehouses, ERP applications, etc., etc. And if you pointed me to ERP applications, I might then say, how can ERP applications improve business? And I bet you know the answer to that. How can ERP applications be used to promote efficient supply chain, etc., etc.? Does that make sense? Pointing me to what you know?
Yeah.
Because you know that.
Yeah.
And if you told me that, I'd be blown away and impressed.
Yeah.
So what do I really need to determine in an interview? One, can I work with you? Do I like you? Do you communicate well? Do you've got executive presence, communication skills? If your tech skills are 80% there, I can get you 20%. No big deal. I can train you. I can send you to training. They all do. What can I do? If you don't have the confidence, I can't put you in front of a customer. So you've got to show that you know. So the second you get something you don't know about like that, bring it back. Most of my knowledge, just say, I'm sorry I've not had the opportunity to do a lift and shift migration yet, but I know a lot about application development. I know a lot about this, and I know a lot about this. And if you want to check my competency, talk to me about these things. You pointed me to the things you knew, where you could impress me. So I would do that. For you, play with some virtual machines, some containers. That's nothing for you to pick up. This cloud stuff is simple. So personality-wise, excellent. I'd say if you can get a little more to the point and a little more variation of your vocal tone. So if you can turn on your camera for a minute.
Yeah.
Turn on your camera for a minute.
Okay, turn off or turn on.
Okay, good. Oh, wait, you just disappeared. You were there a second ago.
Yeah.
Wow, ta-da, you're there. So,
yeah,
I want you to describe two things to me. So, tell me, what is an ETL tool?
The ETL tool
In
is
60 seconds or less.
Okay. ETL tool is basically where you connect to different sources of data and apply a transformation logic and load those data after applying those logic into a bigger data store, which is called a data warehouse.
Okay, good. So, crisp, clean, to the point. I heard everything you said there, Abhishek. Can we try something?
Sure.
I want you to do the same thing, but an ETL tool is used for this pause, and this pause. Collect your thoughts with each pause and change your vocal tone just a little bit. If you could do that again.
Sure. Thank you. The ETL tool is ETL tool is applied to gather data from different sources and apply transformation logic to those data, and finally to load those data into a bigger storage called data warehouse.
Good. Now, it's better than last time. We're going to make it better. An ETL tool is used for a logic layer to take something from here and put it into there. Just a little more energy, enthusiasm, passion. Just try that.
Sure. So ETL tool is used mainly for extracting data from different sources and apply different logic based on business needs, and finally load those data into a data warehouse, which is a bigger storage.
Much better. Do you feel the difference?
Yeah, I feel like I own it. Like, I feel like, yeah.
So the first time you told me like an engineer, you sounded smart as can be. I trusted you. I knew you knew it, but you sounded smart. The second time you sounded smart and like a junior leader. The third time you sounded like an architect. You walked in, you're in charge, you know it, and you can consult me. And that's what I need to hear.
Okay.
You owned it. And that look, that was perfect because now I trust you. So that subtlety, even that little bit, is a six-figure difference in someone's salary. I'm literally not joking. That little bit is that important. So for the architect, imagine you walk into Bank of America and you're now speaking to their CEO about your $200 billion architecture. I'm exaggerating it a little bit, but not much. You got to walk in there. Hi, I'm here to see you. I can help you. I've helped IBM, Cisco, and Microsoft, and I can help you too. So they have to feel that in you, the weight. And that's related to your vocal tone, your expression, your pauses, etc., etc. But good job. And Abhishek, 2 weeks, that's nothing. In 2 months, wow, when we do this, it's going to be exciting as can be because you're already very smart.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Very
I needed
good.
that kind of coaching because even my previous interviews, I lacked that. The only thing like got me into the jobs is my knowledge and skills, but not like executive presence, not like that. And I always lacked that. But that's why I kind of, even though I wanted to get those kind of jobs like business analyst or like product owner, those kind of jobs that require less coding, less technical skills, but I was scared of attempting those kind of jobs before. But now I think with practice with you, I may get that confidence and be ready for cloud architect job.
And I didn't have it initially either. I took lots of special training for this, and I have an executive coach. I've had her for 15 years. She's basically a close friend of mine, but she was my partner and worked as an executive coach. And when I speak to her, she's like, Mike, Relax a little bit. You're the authority. I'm like, oh, you're right. I remember we were speaking in front of a medical audience many years ago, and it was a group of nurses that wanted to know about tech. And she's like, Mike, you're the only CCIE in the world that's also a nurse practitioner. Like, seriously, just relax. Everyone wants to listen to you. And she was right. I relaxed, and everybody came in. They wanted to hear everything I had to say.
Yeah, when you say about executive presence, about how you speak and how you present yourself, it makes sense, because I know someone who has a marketing background but working for a tech company, working for Twitter and making 300,000, but has no technical background or technical knowledge at all. Just she knows how to market herself. That's it. So sometimes I feel like, sometimes I feel like, did I miss out a lot not learning those skills? So,
well, you probably had fun playing with the tech stuff before you did. I had fun being an engineer when I was.
Yeah.
And then one day I woke up and said, why are these people that dress better earning 3 times the money while I'm the one in the basement at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out why the network's not working? Then I became an architect. But I still love my engineering days. And you know what?
Yeah.
I have more respect for smart engineers than you can possibly imagine, because without them, all we have is my PowerPoint, which isn't that pretty.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. And I'm so excited you just joined us. We'll do this again in 2 months. And wow, you're going to be close to being ready to be hired then.
All right. See you later. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That was great. Well,
and I also know that some people have called us while we're doing this, and we'll be returning phone calls as soon as the session is over.
Yep.
Or I'll be returning some phone calls, I should say.
So, so the next one that we have is Leonard. So I'm going to add Leonard here to make sure that he still has his connection. I'm not sure if Leonard is still there.
Is this a Leonard I know?
Hello?
Leonard?
Hello?
Hello,
Hey,
Leonard.
we can hear you. It sounds like you're very far away.
No, I can get you guys. Good day.
The audio is not very good at all.
Let's see. Hopefully we can get some more sound.
Hello?
Hello, Leonard. Can you hear us?
Ow.
I hope we can get this.
Yeah, sounds like there's some feedback, almost like the like this is touching some metal or something. I'm not sure.
Let's see. He may be in an environment without great internet access.
Yeah.
This could be causing him some artifacts. So.
Hello.
Can you hear us? Oh, hi, Leonard.
Hello, sir.
There
we can hear you now.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure my mic had a little bit of problem. I don't know. I tried to remove it, so
it sounds great now.
Yeah.
Now it sounds great. Are you in the U.S.? Are you in Cameroon?
No, I'm in Cambodia.
Cambodia. Oh, wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. I saw your name. I figured you were Cameroonian by looking at your name. Is that where you're originally from?
Yes, I'm a Cameroonian, but currently in Cambodia.
Oh, fantastic. Haven't been to that part of the world, but I spent a lot of time in Asia, so wonderful.
Thank you.
So, Leonard, what are you doing right now, and what's your goal career, so I know how to interview you?
Actually, I've been following Go Cloud Architect, like trying to read more about it. Yes, because I want to get into the cloud journey. So I've been trying to read to get more insight. So I discovered that it is something worth going into it. Yes.
Okay, so we actually.
So my main purpose now of this just to try to have that confidence, have more insight on it, then to see on how I can finally engage myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And So your next job you want, is it a cloud architect one, a cloud engineer one?
Yes, I want to become a cloud architect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you working in technology now?
Actually, from a banking background, which I've been working for about 6 years as a bank manager. I started there as a customer service agent, where I had to sell some of the services of the bank. Then later on, I've been trying to study IT and a little bit of switching now to AWS for some time, but not that much. Yes.
Okay.
So my problem now is to have that good mentorship, to find the good mentorship that would try to bring out what is in me. Yes, and develop it for me to have that self-confidence. Yes.
Fair point. So if you're looking for someone to train you and get you hired as a cloud architect, we'd love to train you in our cloud architect career development program.
Okay.
Having said all of that, today's more of a practice interview session, so we're going to give you a feel for a basic cloud architect interview. Now, I've been studying the cloud a while, because since I don't know you and you're not in our program, and I want to engage it to what you know best. So could you tell me what you know best in the cloud so far?
Okay. Thank you once more for the opportunity. Yes. I know a little bit of storage, S3, networking, a little bit of security, um, um, a little bit of migration. Yes,
Okay.
migration. A little bit of compute. Um, um, database. Database. What again? For now, that's
Okay.
what I can say.
Let's
Yes.
just keep it to one of those things. You've given me more than enough areas. So,
Yes.
Leonard, to begin, tell me about yourself.
Okay. Thank you once more for this opportunity. As I guided said before, my name's Mr. Leonard, which I began my career as a banker with 7 years of working experience. Then later on, I become interested with IT and, to be more precise, AWS. Yes. For now, I have no practical or industrial knowledge of it, but I have theoretical knowledge on AWS in sections such as S3, IAM, um, um, networking, and migration, and so on and so forth. So with time permit, I'm going to try to move in detail. But as I said, since it is just a coaching session, I just want to be like to have that self-confidence that, hey, Leonard, you can go, you are on the right path. That's what I want. Thank you.
Okay. So then we'll assess it. Tell me how a firewall works by default.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, sir. By the way, a firewall is like a gate of a house preventing unwanted someone which is not allowed to get into the house or to get into your environment. So firewall helps to prevent unwanted traffic into an environment and also regulate traffic out of the environment.
So does it block all traffic, or if I'm behind the firewall and I go to a website, cindythecat.com, do I have to tell the firewall to allow my traffic back?
Yes, actually, firewall when configuring AWS or security, we have to allow some such as NAT, our NAT gateway, which this NAT gateway can read inbound, we create an inbound rule and outbound rule. Yes, which allow traffic, recognize traffic into our environment and out of our environment.
Which does that? The NAT gateway or the firewall?
The NAT gateway,
Okay.
which is also a firewall.
So no, the firewall would do that.
Yes.
So how does a firewall know if I go if I'm behind the firewall and I go to www.cindythecat.com and I reach cindythecat.com website and the website responds to me, how does the firewall know to allow my traffic back?
By using
somebody else's traffic in.
By using our IP addresses.
What about your IP address?
Sorry?
What about your IP address? How does the firewall know how to allow your traffic back? Because it's not just your IP address. There's something much more sophisticated.
Due to our inbound and outbound rules created in the environment.
Okay. All right. That's fine. I'll explain this to you when we go over it. But firewalls, by the way, they keep track of what the user does, so they know how to allow the return traffic back. You don't have to tell them to allow return traffic in. What happens is they're stateful. So if I go to www.gocloudcareers.com, what happens is the firewall sees that Mike Gibbs went to gocloudcareers.com. And when gocloudcareers.com answers, it hits the firewall, and the firewall says, hey, Mike Gibbs initiated, so allow the traffic next to Mike Gibbs. Now, Chris is behind the firewall, and Chris tries to come inside, and he's not allowed in because he didn't initiate traffic from behind the firewall. So that's what firewalls do. They watch. They're stateful. Okay. That's what's meant by stateful. But that's okay. Training experience, so we're going to have some fun with it. So how does a load balancer improve performance and availability?
A load balancer improve performance in... Could you please take the question again, sir?
How does a load balancer improve performance and availability?
Thank you very much once more for the question. A load balancer in a system, first, it functions or it helps to regulate traffic to our environment by diverting the traffic into other sector of the environment. For instance, we can have an easy, we have a load balancer that will create another easy that we need to divert our traffic. So in order to avoid congestion of traffic or in order to reduce latency.
Okay, and so we'll cover that as well. What type of database do I choose when I need flexibility in schema and near unlimited scalability? Relational or NoSQL?
Relational database.
When I need flexible schema and near unlimited scalability?
Yeah, relational database. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll talk more about NoSQL databases and why we need them in a minute or so. What's different about a next generation firewall than something like AWS WAF and the way they operate?
Next generation firewall and
AWS WAF, for example.
Okay, sir. As I said, I'm still learning.
Okay.
On that. Yes, I will be very, very happy because I do believe one of my soft skills or my strength is that I easily learn. With time, I'm going to learn that. Thank you.
Sounds good. So let's take a basic storage question. Let's say I've got video, which doesn't a video like we have people that make real videos, like they film 6 and 8K videos and the films have to get distributed to video editors. And let's say they sit on servers, so they have to use block storage. What type of block storage would be useful when I need, say, moderate throughput, but latency is not a concern? What type of block storage types could I use in the AWS cloud? that would be optimized for that? Would it be SSD or magnetic?
Could you please state the question again, sir?
We have to store large video files attached to a server. And we need good throughput, say 400 or 500 megabit per second, but we're not concerned about latency, so IOPS isn't that relevant to us. What kind of block storage should we be thinking about based on what kind of disks?
Mm,
Okay, let's ask it differently. Magnetic storage, such as a regular hard drive, does that give us,
okay.
what's that in terms of latency? Is that high latency or low latency?
Okay. So I'm going to learn on that also.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm trying to find something. When would you use direct connection to the cloud versus a VPN?
Could you please come again with the question?
When should I use a private line or a direct connection to the cloud? And when would I use a VPN? When would be the use? When would I use one versus the other?
Connecting a VPN. So on that also, for me not to give a wrong answer, I can say I'm going to learn on it.
Okay, so let me ask a behavioral question or two so we can try and work on that. What do you know really well about anything? I don't care what it is. I just want to see how you explain something. Because as an architect, it's about our ability to explain. So let's get out of the cloud for a minute. Is there something that you know really well?
Yes. About something that I really know very well, selling a product or selling a service to a customer.
Okay. So show me how you do that. Tell me how you sell a service to a customer.
Okay. For instance, I'm having a service which customers are not yet aware of it. Before that, I need to create or I need to make an access of the market. After making an access or a feasibility study of the market, I need to like look my target market. Who are my target market? Who are after looking my target market, I will try to do a marketing mix of my services. Yes, that's the price, the place, and the price, the place, and the physical evidence of my services. For instance, if I'm dealing with IT services, who are my target markets? What is the price that I'm going to charge for the services that I'm going to render? What when we're talking now on the physical evidence, what is how am I going to brand? How am I going to distinguish my service from other services? Yes. Then after that, I will need to create my awareness of what I want to sell. People need to know what I'm selling, and I will create that awareness to my target market, to the target community. Then start selling them. Then I also see that I'll need to have create a customer producer relationship to have a customer feedback on the services which they have acquired from me. If they have any difficulties in using it, if they have any difficulties in using my services, they can get back to me. Then I and relate to them on how to use them, give them on-site training on the services. And
Wow.
by doing this, I create more confidence between them and the industry.
Nice.
Thank you.
So, wow. So, Leonard, you know why I asked that? I wanted to see how you showed me, how you communicated something that you knew. That was awesome. So, where are your gaps? They're honestly all over cloud. So, you know, the basic connection is when to use direct connection versus a VPN is as follows. If you need guaranteed performance, you use a private line or a direct connection. If you don't care about your performance, because it's not critical, you use a VPN because the performance is not guaranteed on a VPN. So there's that. So also, if you send a lot of data over a VPN, since on the cloud they charge you to actually use the connection, it might be more expensive on a VPN than a direct connection. But there's that, which is something I wanted you to go to. When it came down to the firewall, you just had no idea how firewalls worked, which, you know, firewalls are really critical for security. What they do is they sit at the edge of the network and they watch the traffic that goes through and they allow the return traffic back. But they also enable me to create additional subnets. So I want to put my web servers in one subnet. All I have to do is create a subnet that allows only port 80 and port 43. And I want to allow remote access through a VPN concentrator. I have another subnet that I only allow IPsec traffic to. So firewalls enable me segment my network. What's the main difference between WAF and the regular industrial firewalls? AWS WAF is layer 7 only, and the regular firewalls do layers 3 and 4 and 7. Also, next generation firewalls, actually, when they find a problem, they actually act and they fix it in real time. Things like WAF don't have that ability. So they're static versus dynamic and self-healing. So that's why organizations use bigger, more industrial firewalls. Here's how load balancers improve performance. Leonard, if you have one server and you can't use, and it fills up to 100%, you're done. What if you have two servers that can go up to 100%, 3 servers? So, you know, there's an expression that says if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So if I have 3 pencils together and put them together, they're thicker than 1 pencil. So 3 pencils together are harder to break. So load balancers improve speed and performance by letting you load share across multiple devices. And they remove single points of failure, because if you've got 3 computers instead of 1, and one of the computers dies, you still have 2. Does that make sense, Leonard?
Yes, sir.
So when it comes to storage, you know, all block storage is slow regardless what the cloud providers will tell you compared to traditional storage, and that's why we have to use so much RAID in the cloud environment. But basically, you've got some form of provisioned, meaning it's the most high performance you're going to get on the cloud, and that gives you the ability to justify how many input and operations per second you get ahead of time, and that's the best we're going to do. Generally speaking, and that storage is always going to be on non-volatile hard drives, because non-volatile hard drives offer the best speed, performance, throughput, and latency. When it comes to data center storage, the next best storage we have is standard SSD storage. And guess what? When we get to the cloud, what do you think general purpose SSD storage is? Standard SSD drive, no big deal.
Okay.
Then in AWS, we get something called throughput optimized hard drive. And what's that? It gives us about 500 megabit per second throughput, which is really good. It's SSD speed, but it's magnetic, so the latency is horrible. It's slow. But if I'm sending you a movie, does it matter if the movie gets to you 3 milliseconds later? No, not at all. Because I just sent you a 10 terabyte file, it doesn't matter. So none of that matters. So that's why you would use a throughput optimized kind of hard drive or magnetic storage. And if you call it magnetic storage, you'll know how to find it on any cloud. So I'm trying to think of the questions that I asked you.
Okay, sir.
What it feels like to me is you just need to learn some servers, some storage, some networking, some load balancers, basically the cloud and the data center. But you learn that, you're going to be in good shape, because Leonard, you come across very likable. You communicate very well. And when you know it, like product design and marketing, which is you went over, you were rock solid on that. It was so good. I was going to try and determine if you were doing British marketing and American marketing or Japanese marketing. I was going to actually ask you who sets the price of the product, because the Japanese ask the customers and the Americans say, hey, we do it and we charge our customers whatever. But it was rock solid. It was really good when you got there. So Leonard, just a little more network and data center training. You'll be good to go.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
I
very much.
definitely recommend learning the network and the data center.
Okay.
But really great start, Leonard. And let me tell you, if you want to be a cloud architect, you got it in you.
Okay.
The way you communicated was what needed to be done. Once we asked you what you knew about, it was rock solid. So just fill in the knowledge. You'll be there.
Okay, sir.
I didn't start knowing the cloud. I knew medicine. That's what I trained in. That's what I went to school for. You're doing great. Keep it up.
All right. Thank you, Leonard. And
Okay.
we hopefully we'll have a chance to do it again in a couple of months and see what your progress is. So
Okay, sir.
I would
Thank
love
you.
that. I'd love to see you back in a few months.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I greatly appreciate it.
Come back, attend as many things as you can. We have lots of free things going on. Please join us. And
Okay.
can't wait to see more from you.
Thank you.
all right. Well, I'm gonna
Thank
let
you
you.
very much, Chris.
I'm gonna let you out of here, Leonard. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, Mike.
It's so nice to meet you, Leonard.
All right. So you've made it through another grueling set of interviews, Mike. And
I love doing this. It gives us a chance to talk to others and meet people that are not our students, and it's fun.
Yep. So I'm going to let you close it out, and but I'll let you, if you will, be nice enough to remind everybody about the webinar tomorrow, YouTube Live on Friday. And if you need me to give some information, I can, but I'll leave it up to you.
YouTube Live on Friday?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the one in the morning?
Right.
Okay, sounds good. So before we leave today, let's talk about a few things. Tomorrow, we will run our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. And trust me, if you've not been hired as a cloud architect, please join us. It's going to be completely free. I'm going to tell you exactly what hiring managers want. I'm going to tell you what needs to be on your resume. I'm going to tell you how to get the skills you need, either with us or on your own. I'll tell you the kind of labs that are going to show people what you're made of. I'm going to teach you how to bypass those HR people that are going to just auto-reject your resume nonstop unless you have 10 years experience, and show you how to get your resume in the hands of the hiring manager so they can talk to you, evaluate you, and truly hire you. Because I want you all hired. My students, not my students, becoming cloud hired. So we're doing that. And on Friday morning, guess what? I'll be online from 9 to 11, Chris. And we're going to be talking about questions. You can ask me any question about what to study, what to learn, how to build your career, things to do, build your cloud architect career, ask about cloud architect interviews. I don't care. Anything related to your cloud architect career, solution architect career, enterprise architect career, cloud engineer career, any tech career you want, join us. It's on Friday. So we're going to do a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. It's coming soon. In April, it'll be completely free the way we do all certification boot camps, so that'll be there. If you're looking for more information, we've got a completely free ebook on passing the AWS Certified Solution Architect exam. And you know what? If you want to get cloud hard, we've got our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. You can see what my students look like. They're like Robert. They're rock solid. He's been with me for about 3 months. No. And he didn't come from a tech background, but that's how rock solid he is, and that's how rock solid we get. So if you want to work with us, we have a 30% off coupon. We're celebrating our 1 year of the Cloud Architect Career Development Program of people getting hired every single day of the week. So ask us questions this week. I do know several of you called us. I had calls. Chris had calls on our private number, somehow even on my cell phone. So people got calls, and I will be returning phone calls as soon as this session is over. Normally my team would do it, but it's after hours, and I wouldn't be asking my team to return calls. So I'm going to return some phone calls today. So, Chris, did I forget anything?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so it's honestly been an honor and a privilege. I love getting to communicate with you guys. I hope you guys learn every day, and that's what we do. I just want you to have the best experience. I want you all getting cloud hired, cloud promoted, live your best life. So this is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.